Good evening, everybody. I would like to call to order the December 4th, 2024 City Council meeting. Tonight, I am joined by Mayor Pro Tem Kraut and Council members Albrecht, Bazagian, and Shapiro, as well as city staff. If you would like to provide public comment, please complete a speaker card and give it to our city clerk. Tonight, I'd like to ask everyone to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Hand over heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Tonight we met in closed session. Does our city attorney have a report on closed session?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. We did meet in closed session to discuss 2 items with respect to potential and anticipated litigation, but no reportable action was taken.
Thank you so much. Tonight I'd like to start our meeting with a presentation to recognize our resident, Jerry O'Connell, for his assistance during a recent food truck fire. I would like to call up Captain C2 to make the presentation, along with Deputy DiMatteo and Jerry O'Connell.
Great, thank you so much. On July 16th, 2023, at approximately 4 p.m., a food truck caught fire near the intersection of Las Virgenes Road and Mulholland Highway. The flames spread to nearby brush, threatening wildlife and structures. Mr. O'Connell observed this incident unfold as he drove by and stopped to help. He moved propane tanks away from the food trucks and then scaled the fence to extinguish the brush fire. On behalf of the LA County Sheriff's Department and everyone at Malibu Lost Hills Station, we would like to thank Mr. O'Connell for his display of courage and life-saving efforts. And I will say that I did watch the video on this, and I was just truly amazed that our community would just jump and help us out. I mean, it was just amazing to watch this. It was thick brush, and he was in there with one of our female deputies, and they were just putting out the fire. And this is really what this amazing community is about. It's been such a pleasure just really highlighting the amazing work from last month, a community member in Calabasas saving somebody's life, and today we're honoring Mr. O'Connell for putting out fires, and it's just, that's what it's about. That's what our community is about. And so I did offer him a job if he wants to quit his day job. So if you want to consider that, we're happy to hire you, and so with the fire department as well. So on behalf of the LA County Sheriff's Department, thank you for your service. Nice. Thank you so much.
So the Calabasas City Council hereby recognizes resident Jerry O'Connell for his extraordinary bravery and assistance extinguishing a food truck fire that was threatening land, wildlife, and homes, and this is presented on the 4th day of December, 2024. And I have a certificate that we're going to give you on behalf of the whole council.
I want to thank all the safety officers in here as well. You keep this place safe. Fire is obviously pretty scary in our area, and I just want to thank the city. We love living here. My children our children are in Calabasas High right now, and we're really, this is why we live here. Really appreciate everyone here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up is recognition of Debbie Larson, our Public Safety Coordinator. There's Debbie. I'm like looking all over for you. Debbie Larson has served in numerous public safety and preparedness positions for over 35 years. The last 19 years, Debbie served as the city's public safety coordinator. In addition to her extensive experience, she has a master's degree in environmental and occupational health from Cal State Northridge. Debbie is well respected and liked throughout Southern California emergency preparedness entities. She has represented the city of Calabasas in the highest professional manner and truly enhanced workplace safety and community preparedness. Some of Debbie's major accomplishments include creating the emergency preparedness guide and packet, managing and coordinating Calabasas CERT training since 2005, assisting with the Know Your Zone and Know Your Circuit programs, serving as the liaison to the Public Safety Commission, managing and coordinating the annual flu clinic, assisting with quarterly staff EOC training, managing and coordinating city flu clinics since 2007. As with any public servant, it is important to recognize Debbie's family, her husband Keith, her son Ryan, and her daughter Angie. Thanks for joining us tonight. Debbie's contributions have been invaluable, and her leadership, innovation, dedication, and commitment to excellence will be greatly missed. We'd like to express our deepest gratitude for her service to the city and the community of Calabasas and wish you all the best in this new and exciting next chapter. And we are proud to present you with a plaque, which I'll give you in a minute, that reads, Debbie Larson, in recognition of your outstanding service, January 24th, 2005 to December 26, 2024, presented by the Calabasas City Council and the City of Calabasas. So thank you so much, Debbie. I wanted to let my colleagues say a few words, and I'll conclude with them. Peter?
Debbie, congratulations on your highest honors here. I do have to say, I got that emergency preparedness guide in 2020, and I still have it. Your contribution for that was phenomenal. I've had a conversation with a number of people over that particular piece of literature, and it's just a phenomenal resource. I know you've been so active in so many other areas with our emergency preparedness, and I really appreciate seeing you every time that we have a drill. You've just been right there every step of the way, and well deserved. Thank you.
James?
Debbie, the quality of your work has been outstanding over the last many years that you've been here at the City of Calabasas. I want to wish you the best in retirement, but you're always welcome back. We enjoyed working with you, and I know you had some difficulty because we've had more than our fair share of emergencies over the past several years. So thank you for everything you've done and for helping guide our staff.
David?
And I'll just join in saying congratulations to you, not just on the work you've done here and with all of us for the community, but on the next adventure you're going to have, which is not being here all the time. You did amazing work. It's already been discussed, all the things Alicia mentioned. The Emergency Preparedness Handbook was your hand really was you were a major factor in that, bringing it forward and making sure that every resident had that. And by the bedside, as you said, to keep it handy. Your work during the Woolsey fire was amazing as well. You were here. You've always been here. You're great with community outreach, and all the residents who have questions, you get the honor of answering or helping them out, and that's really important, especially in any type of emergency, whatever's going on in the city. So we've been lucky to have you all these years, and very sorry to see you leave, but glad for your family and you. Thank you.
Ed?
Hey, Debbie. You know, some people are a constant face, and you've been one of those. You've been here throughout. We never thought years ago we'd have emergencies in Calabasas. will that handbook really be necessary? And here we had Woolsey and so many other things that have taken place, and now preparing for future emergencies. I think we all appreciate your service to the city. It's going to be missed, and you've left a high mark for someone to replace. I wish you well, and enjoy your retirement and the plans that you're making.
And I just wanted to add, you brought such passion to the job. It was always something that I really admired. You were such a pleasure to work with. And one thing that wasn't mentioned is you helped organize our public safety community forums, which were so appreciated by the community, and everything you did. It was really so community oriented, and people felt personally the work that you did. So you will be greatly missed. You're always welcome to come back and visit, but you've really made a huge impact on the city. So thank you for all of your contributions. And I think Kindon would like to add something.
Thank you, Mayor. Just on behalf of staff, Debbie, we want to say thank you for all you've done. Your work has just been tremendous over the career in so many different ways. And I'd like to point out to the council just a few things maybe that weren't mentioned. Debbie's reached the point in her career now that granting agencies reach out to her and say, we have money, can you use it? And she says yes, and she gets it done. That's rare in the field to be able to have granting agents reach out and ask to spend their money. Also, just recently during a PSPS event that we had, Mike and I and Debbie were in the room, and we were having a conversation about something and realized we were working through this and thought we could really use this. Within 45 minutes, Debbie had put it together, brought it back, printed it out, and we had it, the tool that we needed. And that's just how she operated. We had an idea, and she put it into fruition, and it came out just always better than we had imagined. So thank you, Debbie.
And there's some other people who would like to speak to recognize you. First, I will call up Brian Cameron.
Thank you. My name is Brian Cameron. I'm a Calabasas resident. I'll be brief. Debbie, you've been there for all of us for as long as I can remember. You've been kind of the rock that's held a lot of this stuff together. We're going to miss you. I'm going to miss you. But I'm sure your horses will be happy. Thank you for being such a great asset to all of us. Okay.
Joe Cholko.
Hi, I'm Joe Cholko. I'm a longtime Calabasas resident. I'm also a public safety commissioner. I've had the pleasure of working with Debbie for the last 2 years as a public safety commissioner, and I have to admit that, she's had a big influence on me. When I first met Debbie, I asked her, how many people you got in your department? And she said, well, there's me. I said, yeah. And she, and Mike Dyer. I said, oh, yeah, the part-timer. Public safety is, interestingly enough, the only department in the city that has fewer than 2 full-time people working in it. Even the city manager has more people than that. So I think it's a real testament to Debbie to hang around for this many years, doing it by herself, pretty much, but doing it so effectively and really hanging in there. And I wanted to mention to Debbie that all the current sitting public safety commissioners are retired. Mike Dyer is retired, otherwise he wouldn't be here. And congratulations, Debbie, you finally made the big time. I hope you have a great retirement. You're going to be busier than you ever were before. Thanks very much.
Thank you. And now I'd like to call up LA County Fire. I'm not sure who's presenting. Everyone. Okay. Okay.
Well, thank you, City of Calabasas, and this is Megan Kurger, who's the Community Service Liaison. And then I also have Maria Greichen, who was here for a long time, so we felt that it was very important for all three of us to be here. So the Los Angeles County Fire Department really enjoys being your hometown fire department, so thank you. And with that, Debbie is a big piece of that for us. But first I'm going to start with what I don't like about Debbie. You can't ever say no. She always has a vision of some sort and so, okay, I'm on it. And so she'll call us to do things, and we are always obligated to do it because she has that personality, that charisma, and the vision for us to perform with her and do. And so whether it's a horse video or doing all kind of, hey, Drew, I need a chipper at my house or whatever it is, I need this, and we just do it. It's awesome. And so that working relationship that we have that makes the community stronger with the public safety component and how we all, with a survival guide, all the stuff that we've had, that we've worked through the years with the wildfire, the risk, the notifications, everything. It's just, you're just the glue behind what we do as a link to the city, and it benefits everybody, and it's so appreciative, Debbie. So I know that I can talk a lot about Debbie, but nevertheless, I'll let Maria say a few words.
Debbie. If I didn't meet Debbie on day one of her employment here with the city, then it was on day two. So I think it was the first day, but it might have been the second. So I feel like 19 years ago, right? That's like a lifetime ago. And I feel like I met Debbie when she was just, this big. And I watched her grow into this position and flourish and just take on, and it was brand new to her. A lot of this was just brand new, and it was like, what do I do? Where do I go for things? So I helped her along with, on the fire aspect of it, and she just took off, and she just embraced it, and just came up with solutions, and just started, and she just went after it. So it was a pleasure working with you. I loved working with Debbie, so it was hard when I left the area and I moved on to Santa Clarita. It was hard because, you always say you don't miss the job, but you miss the people. I know I kept the job. I just moved to a different area. But one of the things that I did miss was working with Debbie and with the city of and all the cities out here. It was just that was the hardest part to leave, was all the cities. But Debbie, you were just it was a pleasure. So I was sad when you told me that you were retiring, but then I was happy because, yay, you're retiring. Now you get your life back, and you're going to be busier than ever. So yeah, so good luck, and we'll be thinking about you. Don't be a stranger. And I'll turn it over to Megan.
Thanks, Maria.
Thank you. Debbie, it has been really wonderful working with you in the past 5.5 years since I started. I know that I feel very lucky to have worked with you, and I feel that I've learned so much from you. And I know that not only have you done so much work for the city of Calabasas and its residents, but you do so much volunteer work within your own community. So I know that I'm going to be working with you again, and I can't wait.
So we have a scroll for, is there anybody talking after us, or we the like?
You're
okay.
it, and then we're gonna all
We're
come
it? All
down.
right, Debbie,
Yeah.
come on down. So we have a scroll for Debbie from, hold on. It came out. Nobody panic. Okay, so what we have for you, come over here, my dear. So I'd like you to see it. So this is from the County of Los Angeles Fire Department Certification of Recognition, Debbie Larson. The Los Angeles County Fire Department recognizes your nearly 20 years of servicing to the city of Calabasas and its residents. Your commitment to producing emergency preparedness programs to help ensure the city's resilience, and your devotion to assisting residents in their own preparedness efforts will solely be missed. We wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors. So that's true. And Anthony C. Maroney, our fire chief, for everything that you've done for us, and we really wish you a happy retirement. And I know I'll be hearing from you real soon. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Give me a hug.
And actually, before we do pictures, I was wrong, and Mike Dyer is going to say something. So then we will hold off, and then we'll do pictures. Yes. And if there's anyone else,
No, I said I wasn't going to say anything.
yeah.
I think we've already touched on a lot of the great things Debbie's done with the city, but I'll tell you, when I first came in here, I saw an attitude of, I can't do this job. She never said that. I won't do this job. She never said that. She says, I'm on it. And together, there was no job that either one of us wouldn't do to help each other, to complement each other for the city. And I could tell you over the years I've had to explain why people have to do something or why they're not doing something, and I never had to do that. And you were a pleasure to work with, an honor to work with you. You were the face of Calabasas when I first came in here, and you still are. And going to miss you a lot. Thank you for everything you've done.
And now we'll do pictures and present you, Debbie, with the plaque. Mike, you can stay up.
Everyone. Squeeze in.
You're good. Take your time.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, council members, executive team, coworkers, and my government liaison partners. I'm here with mixed emotions, been here just shy of 20 years, and with 36 years in my working career. That's enough for anyone. It's been a pleasure working with all of you. I have made lots of friends over the years. If I had to pick my two top faves, it would be Ryan and Carlo, both from the communications department. Both have been super helpful and always there to help me with my never-ending computer issues and need for graphics to make my project shine. It's been a great place to work. It's close to home, a nice location, and it's a stable and secure environment. I am thankful that I have a job where I could raise my family. My kids were just 10 and 12 years old when I started, and now I am seeing the younger generation bringing up their kids. Time goes by so quickly. I consider my unique position as a public safety coordinator to be one of the best jobs here in the city. Being a small department of 1.5 full-time employees, where I would be exposed to almost all departmental projects and programs. I was always learning something new, from radios to running a flu clinic to sending out safety information to the residents. I had the opportunity to make a difference in the world of safety with not just my coworkers, but the Calabasas residents and local cities as well. I particularly enjoyed my last 2 years with my boss, Mike Dyer. He truly is the best mentor and a genuinely wonderful person. We worked together so well because he would always see things from the 30-foot level, and I would always see things from down in the weeds. And together we made a great team. He always shared his lessons learned while working his way up through the fire department. Meanwhile, I was always taking mental notes. So why am I retiring? Well, to enjoy more time with my family, going on travel adventures, working with my 2 nonprofit groups, being with my animals, and working on the never-ending to-do list. Thank you all for your friendships and happy times here in the city of Calabasas.
Thank you, Debbie. So every year, the mayor normally has a State of the City, and since this year I was not able to have one, I still wanted to have the opportunity to recognize the organization of the year. If I did have the State of the City, this is what was going to happen. So we're doing it here instead. So I have been so impressed with the work of EPIC from the very beginning and the contributions that EPIC has made to the city. As everyone knows, public safety is truly the most important thing in this community. So it's appropriate tonight that we're honoring Debbie and that we have our fire and sheriff partners here. So what EPIC has done and continues to do really makes a difference in this community. And I wanted to make sure that you received the recognition that you deserve by being designated as the City of Calabasas 2024 Organization of the Year. So we're thrilled that so many of you are able to be here tonight. And if the following individuals could come up front. Brian Cameron. Lonnie Alferson. Sharon Boucher. Gary Burns. Joe Choco. Norma Citron. Norm Goodkin. Michelle Perlman. Brian Shane. And Michael Stahl. On behalf of the City Council, we have a plaque. Here, let's see. Lisa, will you hold it up for me while I read it? A plaque that reads, "The Calabasas City Council hereby recognizes Emergency Preparedness in Calabasas, a fire-safe council, for their extraordinary service and contributions to our community and the public safety industry, presented this 4th day of December, 2024. I want to thank you all for your service and for the contributions that you continue to make to keep Calabasas a safe community." We're going to all come down and take a picture and hand out some certificates.
Okay, if you guys can kind of like squeeze in. Okay, guys.
Sorry. No, you're good.
You guys ready? 1, 2, 3.
Joe?
Okay. I've changed name badges, but I'm still Joe Chilko, long time. So obviously, when I got involved with, as a public safety commissioner, I also became aware of EPIC. And I thought this was fabulous. This was a group of dedicated volunteers that decided to do something after the Wolsey fire, which we all experienced. One of the major fires in Calabasas, not the only fire since I've lived here in 1991 on, so since the incorporation. So it is very encouraging to me that we got so many talented people out. And Norm Goodkin, who couldn't be here tonight, is the radio guru who has really put a lot of oomph into the program. We're beginning to distribute FRS radios to Calabasas residents. They're paid for by the city, and we provide them. In the event of an emergency where there's no power and there's no cell service or internet, and we lived through that in Wolseley, we will be part of the team working with the Emergency Operations Center to put reliable vetted information out over what we call Channel 16 on our FRS radios, but it is the Calabasas repeater. So it is information that people are going to be able to rely on in an emergency. Social media typically lights up, but it's typically wrong. So that's a big step forward. EPIC also has created an app that Brian Shane and Mike Stahl were instrumental in getting up and running. So I encourage everybody to download the app. It's completely free. And in the event of, once again, no cell service, no power, you'll have all the information you need to survive the emergency right on your own mobile device. And it is created not to drain the battery. So I'm happy to be part of this group. It's been a great experience, and we will continue to carry on Debbie's legacy as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you, EPIC, for all the great work that you do and will continue to do. It's absolutely making a difference in Calabasas, so thank you very much. Is there anyone else want to say anything? Sure.
I mean, it's all been said, but thank you very much. I know it's not something that just happened. It's been years and years and years, and Michael Stahl on the way out reminded me of the first meetings he had and tried to get involved in the city and put things on the internet, but it really is a tremendous organization, and it's growing. And the more people you get involved, the better for our city and for all our residents. So thank you all.
Ed?
Thank you, Mayor. Hey, Brian, you know, there was a void in the city for this to take place, and you stepped up and lit the flame. It was a little flicker, and you insisted to make it a success. And this is what makes a city like ours so great, when you have a local municipal government surrounded by a small group of population, and one of those residents sees something that needs to be done, and they step up and do it from beginning. And this is not just the end, it's a continuum. So we owe you all a great deal of gratitude. Thanks for doing it.
Peter?
And thank you to the whole team.
Yes, thank you to EPIC. I have to just comment on a couple of things that really are, and I've said these before, but they bear repeating. The app that you created works without a cell signal. Like, you know, every app on my phone, when I turn it on, I've got to be connected to the internet for it to work. And yet EPIC anticipated that in the event of an emergency, we might not have that. We still need information at our fingertips. And when Mike shared that with me at Starbucks 4 years ago, I was like dumbfounded how brilliant a simple idea like that might have been. The other thing was the radios that you're providing to our community. I said, I don't need one. I've got my city radio. And I think Joe said, well, what's Leslie going to use? Almost got myself in trouble there, I think. So You know what? There's so many members of our community, whether you're in this room or watching us here on CTV. We all need to be prepared in the event of an emergency. This voice needs to get louder, and you guys have really amplified this voice. I mean, EPIC went from an idea not 4 years ago to pretty much the most recognizable organization in Calabasas, probably even more recognizable than our own city council. Phenomenal job. Keep up what you're doing. We want to get everybody here prepared, and we're well on our way. Thank you.
Thank you. James?
Yes, I want to join my colleagues in congratulating you and thanking you for your work. It was very much appreciated throughout the community, and your communications are always excellent. The emails that go out, the reminders, the information, it's very valuable. So please keep it up.
Thank you. So congratulations again. Next up, our Sheriff's Crime Report from Deputy DiMatteo.
Good evening. I have the crime report for the month of October 2024. Let's get into it. 33 total Part 1 crimes for the month. There were 4 assaults and 1 robbery. The robbery was pretty interesting. It started off as a scam and then snowballed into a harsher crime like a robbery. So it basically took place at the Ralphs at the Commons. Just want everyone to be aware of this because it started off as a scam. A shopper approached the grocery store and was stopped by 2 females in their 20s. One of them had a baby with them. They told the shopper that, hey, they were struggling with money and asked the victim if they could help buy some baby formula. Of course, the victim said, yeah, no problem, let me get that for you. They all 3 went into the grocery store, and when they did that, the 2 suspects started to load the grocery cart with approximately $550 worth of groceries, not baby formula. So the victim became concerned, hey, what are you guys doing? And they said, well, you're going to buy this for us, whether you like it or not, and if you call out for help or attempt to run, there's somebody waiting in the parking lot for you that will hurt you. So the victim went with the program, bought the groceries, and then went outside. When she went outside, she did see a man in the parking lot in a van, and then she was able to get away. So pretty interesting scenario that this is happening in this city. So I want people to be aware of that. If anyone approaches you at a grocery store or at a retail establishment and asks you for help, just direct them to a manager of that store or call us if you're concerned, and we will take a look into it. So that was the robbery on this crime report. And why was it a robbery? It's because she was scared for her life, right? She thought that if she didn't go with buying these groceries that she was going to get harmed. There were 3 residential burglaries, 3 commercial burglaries. One of these commercial burglaries occurred in the Commons, and the other 2 occurred in the Courtyard Shopping Center. 5 grand thefts, 9 petty thefts, 6 vehicle burglaries. And then we did have 2 sexual assaults on this crime report. One involved 2 minors, so I don't have any more information on that. The other incident involved 2 adults in a long-term dating relationship. Both incidents are being investigated by the Sheriff's Special Victims Bureau. That's it for the crime report. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Ed?
Thank you for the report. Sometimes when I read the report, it's a little hard to decipher a trend. You know, you look for a trend. It's sad to hear what crimes have taken place, but one thing that I feel is very, very consistent, and that is the response time. The response time is listed on there, and I always look at that. It's either improving or steady. So thank you for your constant vigilance over the city. And it's nice to know we're protected, and I'm going to translate this information to my wife. She shops at Ralph's all the time.
Yes.
And I hope others will as well, and avoid a conflict if it does take place. Thank you so much.
I did have a question for the council. It's a new report. Do you like it or no? Is it confusing?
It's not that great. The other one's
So
the other one was
this is
better.
my first time. This
As
is
long
my
as you're
first time
asking.
looking at it, and so it is
extended-
pretty difficult to decipher. I know I'm
It's
going to have to get
extended.
used to it, but any questions like in crazy detail, I'm going to have to
Well-
say hold on with that.
Wait
Well,
till
actually,
James.
I'll tell you the main thing is this month and the relevant part of 2024 should be at the front. That's the most confusing part, and then going back in chronological order
Yeah,
instead
it
of the
was-
way this is.
Okay, noted. And I
And then
agree.
why are certain years omitted?
I don't know.
It goes 2019, 2023, 2024. I don't know. It's confusing.
It's brand new to me too, and I agree it is confusing. So hopefully we'll work on it.
But thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Okay. Peter, then David.
Sure. I wanted to ask about the juvenile report that was in there at the school sites. Could you tell us a little bit more about the first two incidents there?
For juvenile incidents, I don't have any information on that. What I can do, and what I did for the Public Safety Commission's last meeting, is I did bring the juvenile team sergeant to the meeting. If you would like him to come to a meeting in the future, we can arrange for that to happen. He can explain to you everything in detail pertaining to his team and to any questions you have pertaining to those incidents.
I think I'd like to keep my question a little more general at this point. The report was for October for the school issues. The November report doesn't come out until next month. Is that right?
Yes.
And are we seeing a spike in activity there, or was that just?
The J team is busy.
Yeah.
Yes, I can tell you that.
Okay. All right. So we'll figure out if we want to agendize them on a future meeting
Yeah.
or not.
That'd be great.
David?
Thank you, and I will join in with the comments. The report is not as clear as the prior format, at least for my point of view, so.
Me
and,
too.
Yes. And I would be, depending on what the mayor wants and the colleagues want, I'd definitely like to have the J team come at some point, to let us know what's going on in the
Yeah,
schools.
absolutely.
Only thing I was going to bring up, in addition to the grocery stores and the scams, there's scams everywhere. I know outside of the city, I'm aware of quite a few at gas stations.
Yes.
Right near a gas station, people who've lost their wallets, people who need money for gas, people who need something. And once they get to you, it's either a distraction or it's something more nefarious. So
Yes.
anything we can do as a city, as a council, to help make our community safer, we want to do. And being aware is number one, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you, and keep everybody safe, and thank everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I was just going to ask, you know how LA County Sheriff on their social media will do like scam alerts?
Mhm.
Do you think maybe they can do something about this latest one that was mentioned?
We can.
Or and maybe we can as well from our staff, just alerting the community. So the more information we get out there.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to follow up
Right.
on the actual investigation part of it, so I don't know which detective is handling it. I will find out. I'll find out if there were any arrests made or identifications made, but yeah, it's definitely something that we can post.
And also, nothing really to do with this, but just, I was at the market yesterday, and so many people continue, older residents, leaving their purses unattended in the carts. So just as we're talking about not making yourselves vulnerable to thefts and just keep your purse on you.
Yeah, I mean, we can't force businesses to do things, but, you know, Trader Joe's has those signs out
Yeah.
in front that reminds their shoppers, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Holidays are here,
Exactly.
and there are people here that want to
Right.
take advantage of you and scam you.
Right. Well,
Sad.
thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
Now we are moving on to announcements and introductions. I will start with Mayor Pro Tem Kraut.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to share with everyone that our our commission appointments are all up at this point. They get renewed every 2 years. So we have an application that's available if you want to go to our city website and apply for any of our commissions. we have an architectural review panel, Art and Public Places, an Arts Council, Communication and Technology Commission, the Environmental Commission, the Historic Preservation Commission, the Library Commission, the Mayor's Youth Council, the Park, Recs, and Education Commission, Planning Commission, of course, Public Safety Commission, Traffic and Transportation, and then the Calabasas Community Foundation. We do have student members of all of our organizations. There's plenty of opportunity for anybody who's got an interest in one of those areas and wants to participate in the City of Calabasas. Now's your opportunity. Applications are due on December 16th, which is Monday in 2 weeks. So there is still time. If you have a chance, visit our website at cityofcalabasas.com and you'll find it right on the front page. Thank you.
Thank you. James?
Yes, I wanted to take the occasion, because we're not going to have another regular meeting, to wish everyone happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year's. I hope everyone will be watching the Twilight Zone Marathon, which is a tradition with me. And then again, Merry Orthodox Christmas in January. And I also wanted to announce that the Agoura Hills Calabasas Community Center is turning 25, now the Calabasas Community Center, 25 years old on December 11th, and there will be an open house there with some refreshments and free of charge. So if you haven't already, come out and look at the community center and take a look at what it has to offer and enjoy the day there. Thank you.
David?
Thank you. I want to take a moment. I know we'll do it on December 11th. Our next scheduled meeting is the reorganization, and take a moment to congratulate the mayor on not only a great year, but an excellent selection for the organization of the year. I know that was going to be the highlight of your State of the City, and it was tonight. So congrats. I also want to congratulate the Rotary Club of Calabasas and Rotary International, as well as the Sagebrush Candina for hosting their annual Thanksgiving for Seniors event. Over 600 seniors attended and had a wonderful celebration. Councilmember Albrecht and I tried not to eat too much of the pie before we served it. We had a great time and really meant a lot to those seniors who attended. So congratulations to the Rotary. And also December 12th, the night after the reorganization, the Valley Economic Alliance will be having its annual meeting and swearing in of the board, done by our own Mayor Pro Tem Peter Kraut, who will be then officially mayor, I believe, if I'm correct. And likewise, I want to wish everyone a happy, healthy holidays and wish everyone good thoughts and peace for everyone in the coming year.
Ed?
Thank you very, very much. I, too, would like to wish everybody a happy New Year, holiday, Christmas, Hanukkah. It's hard to believe that we're here at the end of the year already. Where did it go? We just sat down in January. I appreciate that Mayor Pro Tem mentioned the commission appointments. I just want to reiterate one point, and that is that those that are sitting commissioners, they too have to reapply. So don't think that because you've been applied once, you can just automatically continue. So please keep that in mind. Concerning the Calabasas Community Center, as far as announcements are concerned, they're going to be holiday movie nights. There's no registration. There's refreshments for everyone. It's on a first-come, first-served basis, and doors open at 4 p.m. Gosh, I'm so sorry. I don't have the date on that, but it is on the city website. I know it's a great event for kids. The Calabasas Recreation brochure is now out, and there's fall class registration. So those that are members, please take advantage of it because you get early registration, an opportunity so you don't get shut out of your classes, and then the general non-members will register behind you. And lastly, in terms of the holidays, Waste Management is offering a free collection of recycling real Christmas trees December 26th through January 6th. Happy holidays again.
Thank you. And I just wanted to congratulate our new LA County District Attorney, Nathan Hockman, who was sworn in, and I'm very excited about that new position, and hopefully that we will actually see some real change countywide that will trickle down to Calabasas. So I'm thrilled about that and appreciate all of the other announcements that have been made. Now we will move on to public comment. I have one speaker, Mark Levinson, for items not on the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have just a couple of things to say about the Chamber of Commerce. And first, it's appropriate to honor the people that were honored tonight and the organizations. And it's a great showing for the city, the people who live here and contribute on a voluntary basis, all of their time and effort. And that marks what the city is really about. The Chamber has a couple of things coming up. Tomorrow night, we have a mixer at the Country Club. We're hoping everyone will bring a toy. Obviously, they'll be donated. And that's, the feel-good event right now. We have a joint mixer coming up with PAL Pacific Chamber. It's our second one. We had one last year. This one will be in Malibu. And it's an effort in December, it's the 17th, to try to bring more knowledge to our surrounding communities of all the things that are happening here in Calabasas and the benefits of the city and the Chamber of Commerce. And then obviously in January we have our installation gala and the new board will be sworn in. We also have casino night that time, so it'll be a fun event as well as a formal event. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. And I don't have any other speaker cards. We're going to move on to our consent calendar. Do any of my colleagues wish to pull any items from the consent calendar?
14, please.
14 also, yes.
Anyone else? Okay, just item number 14, which is adoption of resolution number 2024-1939, transferring remaining balance of American Rescue Plan Act funds to Calabasas Community Center Fund. And Ron, our CFO, is here to speak.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and council members. The item before you tonight is basically a wrap-up of the money that the city has received from the federal government. We all remember the lockdowns and what happened starting 4.5 years ago. The city received over $5 million from the federal government as an economic stimulus, and we have used that, if you look on the second page of the report, in a variety of capital projects, everything from Wild Walnut Park to other playgrounds in different parks to our purchase of 5 vehicles and on down you see on the laundry list. We are, according to the ARPA law, required to spend all the money by December 31st of 25. If we have any expenses after December 31st of 24, we have to have a valid signed contract for any and all of those expenses. We now have finished a number of these capital projects. Kudos to Parks and Rec and Public Works and other staff for getting a lot of work done and a lot of projects done. We have about $910,000 remaining, and we are proposing to allocate that to the Calabasas Community Center as outlined in the report. This will expend all the money prior to December 31st, 24. We'll close out the fund and be closing out all of our reporting with the federal government for these monies, and then we'll be all done with this. So I'm available to answer any and all questions that you may have.
David? Oh, James?
Yes. A couple questions on this. Does the transfer, the imminent transfer of the property from jointly owned by Calabasas and Agoura Hills to Calabasas, does that impact this at all?
I'll leave it up to the city manager.
It does not, Councilman. So this is really an accounting practice. So with the repairs that were done at the community center, we started with really no money. So what wasn't funded through grants or through earmarks or a general fund allocation. So anything that went above and beyond that went into a negative balance. So in order to not have as much of a negative balance in the community center fund, this is our fund, our monies, then this transfer offsets that. So
Well,
it
I
doesn't
guess-
affect the transfer of the
I
property.
guess I didn't phrase it right. So what I really meant was like, we're doing accounting, we're telling the federal government how we're using the money, right?
Correct.
So we say we're using it for Agoura Hills Calabasas Community Center. Then it converts to the Calabasas Community Center with technically a new level of ownership.
Correct.
100% instead of 50%. So does any of that jeopardize these funds, or could the federal government come back and say this is not the same project or same use?
No, it doesn't have any effect on that. This is strictly for the accounting, and we've already spent the money on those projects, be it the roof project or the other startup costs. So this is just saying, hey, that money's actually from the ARPA.
Okay, so when you look at the specifics of the community center expenditures, is that anywhere in here?
No, it is not.
Okay. It might have been helpful to know where, I mean, you outlined the major one is a roof and, of course, the restructuring and some of the changes, but I know there was a long list of things that we felt needed to be done long-term, short-term. So how far into that list does this money get us?
The actual community center, because of all the startup costs and other things that were encountered during the, prior to the reopening of it, is at a negative $1.7 million right now. And so this ARPA transfer of $900,000 will basically reduce that by about half. And then we also have programmed in this year's budget about $500,000 to $600,000 as a transfer out of the general fund to the community center. So that'll reduce that deficit even more, but we'll still be at a deficit based on what we've already spent in the fund, just to open up the place.
Okay, so this is all monies that are going to things that have already been paid for.
Correct.
With
Yes.
our money. Okay.
Nothing new, nothing, it's already been spent.
When all this is done, I would like to somewhere see what exactly the breakdown of the expenses was.
We
That's
shall
it.
do that.
Thank you.
Peter, did you have any questions?
I did. David, do you want to go first?
I let you know I was going to ask some questions. Normally, this is something that Mayor Pro Tem and I would meet ahead of time with you as a budget committee, so we'd go over the numbers, we'd be educated rather than asking from the dais. I know there's a timeliness issue. So I know we received, I'll start with this one, $1,010,000? Is that right? $1,010,000 on the LA County grant?
Correct.
Correct? And that for the roof and towards the roof. There was also a federal earmark grant of $1 million that Agoura applied for jointly for the community center for the infrastructure and additional work to be done. Is that something we are going to present to receive reimbursement from that $1 million for projects as we're spending those funds, whether it's HVAC, whatever it might be, or are those anywhere else? Because I don't see them here. That's why I'm asking.
Correct. Those are actually monies that Agoura received. So they were spent by the city of Agoura on the Agoura Calabasas Community Center.
Okay. And
For example, the wooden courts for the basketball court, that was paid for out of that federal money. So they're nowhere on our books because we did not spend the money. They were not our contracts. That was not the city of Calabasas grant. That was city of Agoura Hills. So they have all the accounting for it.
And has that $1 million been expended? That was the
Yes.
question.
Yes.
That was-
The entire $1 million has been spent.
I just wanted to put that out there very clearly that it has been spent. And again, when we first talked and we've had discussions about reopening and taking over the community center, we were given numbers that would run in a deficit, or we would need to come up with or use general funds, whatever it might be, of approximately $500,000 or more. Now we're looking at an additional hundreds of thousands, 364,000 or 400,000 or 300,000, depending on the numbers. And do we know what those costs are? I know James alluded to it, but what those specific expenditures were that caused us to be that much, need this much money?
Yes, and let me come back with a further report on the whole Calabasas Community Center Fund for the Budget Committee, and then also for the council, just to show where the actual money was spent, if it was based on the kitchen or plumbing and all the other startup costs that we had in the center.
And we're still going to have additional funds to expend. Okay, that's my question, because it's not here. What was spent previously? I see the over $5 million, which has been broken down, and the other items aren't yet broken out for us to consider. Thank you.
Peter?
Thank you. Ron, I'm sorry to belabor the point, but I'm going to ask the same question in a different way, if you might entertain me here. The staff report says the roof replacement cost $1.3 million. Well, the grant was $1 million. Therefore, the city spent about $364,000 of its own money.
Correct.
The way that the staff report reads, that we've spent $300,000, so we're going to transfer $900,000 in there to cover it. There's no other, when the staff report articulates it that way, it leaves us doubting, have we really spent the $900,000 in an approved manner? If we're getting the $1 million back from the county grant, we can't claim the expense twice, once for the ARPA funds and once for the county grant. So could you explain a little better where'd the other $600,000 get spent?
So $300,000 in the roof, and then the other startup costs are equipment. Go ahead.
Council, if we could, Jeff, would you mind coming up? I think out of everybody in the room, you could walk through a list real quickly of some of the improvements in the community center.
And if you would, Jeff, only cover costs that haven't been reimbursed by another grant.
I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem, can you explain that one more time, your question?
Because we're transferring the $900,000 of ARPA funds in here, we need to only talk about costs that we've spent that were not or are not covered by another grant. So for example, the $1.3 million for the roof replacement project went over by $300,000.
It did, yes.
The $300,000 is an expense that the ARPA funds can cover.
Correct.
The $1 million is covered by another grant, so that doesn't count.
The $1 million grant that the Gura Hills had to do the refurbishing?
No, the $1 million roof grant.
Okay, yes, okay.
The Agora Hills one doesn't count either.
That's correct. So we did not spend that. We did not run that contract, as Ron mentioned. So you're looking at other expenses that we did have that were unexpected?
We're looking for any expenses above and beyond those two grants that we had to cover.
Okay, it would be, we had a lot of electrical issues with the switchgear that we had to replace. We did the lighting outside for the LED, as well as the lighting for inside the gym. We ran into a lot of plumbing issues that we were unexpected that we had to cover. We had ADA improvements with the doors, with plumbing, with the drinking faucets, things like that. There were a lot of expenditures that once we opened up, we saw problems that occurred that we had to address to get the facility up and running and get everything signed off.
Okay,
with
and
building and safety.
What dollar figure would you attach to all of those?
I couldn't give the exact amount. We could get it. We have it. I just don't know off the top of my head, but I know it was a couple $100,000 easily, I'm sure. I don't know exactly the correct number, but I know we ran into a lot of the LED lighting for outside, inside. The plumbing was another $40,000. It added up pretty quickly once we saw the issues we had in there, especially with the electrical. We got into the switchgear. We had a lot of issues just to get the electrical safe.
Okay, and I do recall those too, but it's my understanding that all of those expenses are in the $364,000 overage that we covered.
No, the 364 is just for the roof.
Correct.
But
Only
those
for
were
the
added
roof.
as change orders to the roof project, no?
We did have a few change orders to the roof project, yes, once we got in there, because we didn't know exactly what would be in the built-up roof portion of it. Until we got in there, we did have to expend a little bit more money to get that area repaired, yes. We had to replace some wood and some structure before they put the new roof surface on there.
Okay. So do we believe that we can identify $911,000 of money spent on the community center that was not reimbursed by other grants?
Yes, sir, and more.
Okay. So if we can do that and we transfer the money in there to cover those past expenses, there's no restriction on how we spend that money then in the future.
Correct, no restrictions.
We could even transfer it back to the general fund at some point.
Yes, except the money's already been spent and the community center is already in a negative position.
Okay. All right.
Are there any further questions on item number 14? Okay.
I just asked that if I could make a suggestion that we approve item number 14, amending it that the staff report and supporting documentation be updated to include documentation of how we spent the $911,000.
I would second that.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar with the additions to item 14?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next item is item number 15, which is a public hearing to continue the hearing to January 22nd, 2025 for designation of the 111-year-old El Camino Real bell marker located at 23508 Calabasas Road as a local historic landmark. May I have a motion to continue the hearing to January 22nd, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
David and-
I did have a couple questions.
Okay.
When this comes back, I assume there'll be a staff report discussing the history of the bell?
Absolutely.
Is any part of that available now? I know, because the reason I ask is, as you know, Tom, I had wondered if there was, because I was running into some problems finding out some background information about it, and I know you had some issues too with that. Were you able to find anything more from the county?
I haven't found anything more since our discussion, but I'll present everything we have. I mean, I gave a thorough report to the HPC, and that's available.
Okay.
I mean, in terms of anything available now before we can prepare the report that's specific to this body.
Okay, and where did you get that information? Was that from the county?
For the bell, I had multiple sources.
Okay. All right, I guess we can talk afterwards.
Sure.
It's on the website, right, that report?
The HPC report is.
Okay.
Okay. May I have a motion to continue the hearing? Oh, motion's made, and there's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. That item will come back January 22nd. Now we're moving on to item number 16, which is ordinance number 2024-410, amending section 17.30 signs of the Calabasas Municipal Code to permit digital kiosks in shopping centers and require all new kiosks to incorporate and integrate security cameras with live feed to the Los Angeles County Sheriff. This item was continued from November 13th, and our Community Development Director, Michael Klein, will present this report along with others.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm joined tonight by City Planner Tom Bartlett, as well as our Planning Assistant, Rachel Zadikov. And Tom will go ahead and go through the PowerPoint, and we are all available for discussion and questions.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. It's good to see everybody, and for the last time this year, I suppose, in official capacity. So happy to meet with you tonight and talk about another public safety item. It seems like public safety is the theme, and even though this item is notified as a sign ordinance amendment, which it is, it's really a public safety item, and you're going to see why in a little bit. So we've already had 6 of those by my count, so they're now going to have 7 public safety items tonight. That's great. I'm not getting a page down. I'm not able to get this to move. There we go. Thank you. So in terms of background, you know that this body asked for looking at this possibility of having digital kiosks that would have security cameras embedded in them, something that we would allow under our sign ordinance. And to prepare that ordinance, we prepared an initial draft material that was discussed with the Planning Commission on 2 separate meetings in July and August. And we developed a formal draft that then went to them in a public hearing in September. All of those discussions were robust, a lot of good information considered back and forth, And after all of that, they prepared a resolution, which is included as an attachment to the staff report, whereby they recommend the council not adopt the ordinance. And we can explain all the details in a little bit. So we do have an ordinance that, of course, is attached and before you for consideration. That ordinance includes clear and specific language to allow for digital kiosks with security cameras for commercial shopping centers in the city. It incorporates standards for those in terms of their size, width, location, et cetera. They incorporate a requirement that associated security cameras include a feed to the LA County Sheriff, and it establishes overarching parameters for all kiosks, not just the digital kiosks. So we've got amendments to the ordinance that pertain to all kiosks as part of this effort. So in terms of a kiosk, right now it is defined as what you see there in the box. It's a freestanding structure erected on a foundation and designed to provide advertising space for a group of buildings in a shopping center addressing a pedestrian audience. That's the current definition in our code. We're proposing that we'll expand that to include sub-definitions, as it were, one for non-digital kiosk, meaning one that doesn't have digital display, basically, and a digital, which includes the characteristics you would have, which basically is a digital display screen or several that are part of the kiosk. And those two definitions are embedded in the proposed ordinance. Digital kiosk, I think you can, when you see it, you know it, but these are some examples. The one on the right might look like one from the Calabasas Commons, but it's not. But it is on another property that is managed by Caruso. So in terms of provisions, I'm going to summarize what some of those are. Right now, the ordinance would permit one, as written, it would allow for one kiosk to be installed for each shopping center that is zoned in either a CR zone, a commercial retail, or a CMU, commercial mixed-use zoning district. So it wouldn't matter how large your shopping center is, you can get one kiosk. And then for each additional 10,000 square feet, you get another kiosk. So for example, a 20,000 square foot shopping center could have 2 kiosks. And a 50,000 square foot shopping center could have 5. But an 8,000, even though it doesn't come to 10, could still at least have 1. There's no fractional kiosk. Each kiosk is required to have at least 2 security cameras. The cameras shall be, kiosk shall be located on interior of the property, at least 25 feet from street side property lines. That is a standard that speaks to the pedestrian orientation and trying to not have these oriented towards a vehicular audience. There's to be spaced no less than 75 feet and not to exceed 10 feet in height or 5 feet in width, and located in manners that do not compromise, disable access, emergency egress, those sorts of things. Screen areas have limitations to 80% of the total surface area, no more than 2 display screens per kiosk. No provision for audio, we're prohibiting that, so it'd be just display purposes only, just like a passive kiosk would be today, and what we see in the comments today. The display messages and colors, the way it's written right now, shall not change more quickly than one message every 30 seconds. That's sort of allowing it to be a static image, but it can change at least some frequency, but not in a video moving picture kind of way. That's the way it's written right now. And light emission control would be lit so that it would not exceed 3-foot candles above the ambient lighting. So in terms of what properties it affects, there are 10 shopping centers in the city that would be able to avail themselves of this particular sign type, a kiosk, if this ordinance were passed. They can all have whatever the number would be based on their square footage, and so you can see in the right-hand column what that number theoretically would be. In reality, how many they could have is going to be determined by not only this, but the other parameters that I summarized, such as the spacing, distance from streets and other things, and accommodating safety in terms of vehicles, pedestrians, and that sort of thing. So this truly would be the maximum number, and as you apply other standards, that number would probably go down. But of course, at least 1 for even the smallest shopping center. Here's an example, one of our local shopping centers. This happens to be at the southwest corner of Agora Road and Las Virgenes Road, and it's approximately 39,000 square feet at the center. So 3 kiosks, and you can see you can easily place them. This was drawn to scale, and you could have them spaced well within the pedestrian corridor and arcade that is in that shopping center. It's just a matter of details of how it would be accomplished. Now, we're not going into particulars about the center and where they have stairs and how they do it. That would be up to the center and any professionals they employ to get it prepared, and they have to submit a plan to us, and we'd have to confirm it meets the standards. But as an illustration, you can see that this is the concept. And the blue line, for example, shows 25 feet away from the street, and you can see the distances there and how it would be placed. They could be in a variety of different arrangements and meet the standards in terms of site placement. But there's one example. So key, and this gets to my initial comment when I introduced the item, this is a security-focused ordinance, at least in staff's view, because security cameras must be incorporated and they must be integrated in any new or replacement kiosk. So this ordinance has been broadened. That's one of the things that happened through the Planning Commission process to now encompass any new kiosk, even if it's a replacement for an existing kiosk, will have to have security cameras that would be integrated. Registration is the minimal level. You at least register with the sheriff, and then they know you have camera. They know that you have footage that they can access if they have to get to it, but it's not directly connected in real time. Integration means it's connected in real time. Council members, I think, will remember Captain C2 gave an overview of how this system has been set up, and that's what this ties into, is that system. I don't know why this isn't. This is just to illustrate that they have equipment specific for this purpose. This is some of the material that was presented by Captain C2 that shows that there are systems that are set up to do this. So they've already initiated the system. As she reported, they already have well over 1,000 registered cameras. I don't know what the number was for integrated. But this is with a type of equipment that have to be integrated. All of this would happen through the vendor or vendors that are working with the property owners to do these systems. There would be no cost to the city. There's no, you get the extra security basically on the backs of the property owners, and they get the advertising revenue, and of course the advertisers get their message across, and yet you're also helping public safety. That's the whole point behind it. So this equipment is fundamental to this whole effort. Not that we have to do anything about that. That's just going to be unseen. It's behind the scenes. So review and approval process would be simple. It would be a sign permit process like any other signs. We would not have it, the way the ordinance is written, be a part of a sign program amendment or a scenic corridor permit. They're not even oriented towards any of our roadways, and that's the reason why. So it would allow these to be done pretty quickly and simply and easily to accomplish the goal. Planning Commission did a substantial review, as I mentioned earlier, over the course of 3 meetings, and results of those reviews I'll summarize here. As I mentioned earlier, we revised the standards to cover all kiosks, so even if you're going to put up a new non-digital kiosk, it has to have security cameras. The revised camera requirements apply to all new and replacement. They all have to be integrated as well. So we're treating all the kiosks the same. If a kiosk, and we know we have them at the Commons, just remains sitting there, we cannot require it. But as soon as they want to replace it, we're going to require the cameras and the feed. It's revised to allow at least 1 per shopping center. That was not the case in the original draft, so it's been expanded to do that. And we reduced the maximum allowable height, which started out, I think, in the draft ordinance, 12 feet to 10, and the 6-foot width was the original width suggested, and that got reduced further to 5 feet. And then lastly, the commission asked that the digital display rate be limited to 1 message per 30 seconds, not faster than that. So that's what the commission did primarily. until they led up to the point of voting on a resolution, and their resolution that they passed was a denial resolution, or at least a recommendation for denial. They nonetheless also caveated that with requests that the council look into revenue sharing. They even mentioned specifically 50-50, but we've looked into some things, and I can answer any questions about that if you want. It's not covered, obviously, in the draft ordinance. That would be a separate matter. They also suggested that if there's revenue sharing, that the funds be allocated to public safety purposes, and they suggested that we would invite the sheriff to provide an annual report relative to this whole program and the effectiveness of our cameras, and that be provided to the council annually. So that summarizes, unless I missed something.
The
Michael?
planning commission vote, there's nowhere, what was the vote?
You mean
Was it
3-2?
unanimous?
It was not unanimous. Is that what you're asking?
Well, what was the vote on the planning commission?
It was 3-2.
To recommend denial?
Correct.
Okay.
So that's, we're asking that the council, based on the commission recommendation, table consideration as one option. And we could work on things more if you want. The council will tell us what you want to do in that circumstance, or you could continue with an ordinance that's clearly fully written and before you, and conduct the first reading and introduce it. Obviously, you could also make amendments to it and then introduce it with those amendments. So we're here to help you accomplish whichever of those objectives you may want. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tom, for the presentation. Do you guys want to take a break now before we start conversations? Okay, let's, instead of waiting till after. So we'll take a 10-minute break now, and then we can finish. Okay, we are back, and back to discussing digital kiosks. Thank you so much for the presentation, Tom. I wanted to open this item up to council comments. Peter, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Thank you for the presentation. That was great. I do have a few questions. How did this project come to be? Who requested it? How did it get started? Where'd the idea come from?
This came from the council. I think on the PowerPoint presentation, we mentioned that I think it was June 19th. The council directed staff to move forward with some sort of ordinance that would allow for digital kiosks.
I mean, the original idea, though, I mean, it wasn't conceived here, was it? Was it recommended to us by somebody?
It was a council future agenda item in early January.
Okay.
I had also read about that different cities were doing their own digital kiosk programs, even on public right away. So I talked to Kindon as well about that.
Got it. And what other cities have programs like this that you've looked into?
So we're familiar with Culver City, Santa Monica, Glendale. They allow for digital kiosks in different capacities. So sometimes some cities allow for them in the public right-of-way. Other cities allow for them on private property. The direction and understanding from the future agenda request was to look at this for private property.
Okay. On the square footage report that you had, the Commons had 220,000 square foot, 607. Is that including the movie theaters? So where those are slated to go away, they would not be able to
I believe that includes the
exercise
movie theater. That's what it is today. But of course, whenever they would come in to request, if they would, it would be based on whatever the square footage is at that time. And we know that with the project that was approved, they will lose commercial square footage from the theater, but they also are putting in new square footage in a new building across the way there. So it would be whatever the number ends up being at the time.
But with an approved project, would we adjust, I mean, would they apply for it now, get the signage as if the movie theater was there, and then move towards the apartments?
So technically, from a zoning standpoint, if an ordinance was approved and then they applied afterwards, it would be what's on the ground today. since they have not pulled a building permit, they may not move forward with that project. If at any point in time they do move forward with the project, then they would be grandfathered with effectively a couple non-conforming digital kiosks.
Okay. Possibly.
Potentially.
We're not talking about a lot of difference in square footage anyway. The movie theater, I know, like I said, you're losing the commercial footprint of it on that first floor. There's nothing above it, and the apartment project will replace that footprint, basically. But across the way, there would be these other buildings with additional retail. So it ends up being, for the most part, the same amount of square footage. So it's not going to be a big difference. It'd be 22 maximum kiosks probably either way.
Okay, but is our square footage in the proposed ordinance here for square footage of retail space or square footage of total building?
It has to do with the commercial space, not housing units.
Yeah, the intent is for commercial space, and if necessary, we can certainly clarify that.
Okay, but how is it intended at this moment in time?
It's intended for commercial space, not for the residential.
Gotcha, okay. When it comes to just cameras, why not I mean, we say that this ordinance is predominantly about cameras and public safety. Why not look at an ordinance that would, or have you looked at an ordinance that would encourage cameras in public safety without a digital kiosk being tied into the, is this just an incentive to get people to put more cameras in? Is that what it is?
Of course, people are, shop owners, you can see plenty of cameras inside and out already. They are not out in the walking area in a quasi-common type of area, unless you were to put them on like a kiosk. It's not to say that they couldn't just put them in there, I suppose. But what this does is it teams up that need, that public safety purpose with a product that can deliver it at no cost to the city and do it in a unique way, because it will put the cameras out where the wandering public, I'll call it, are out in the outdoor hallway of the commons, right? They're not in a store, they're out there. And the camera also would be able to have a perspective toward the stores from outside instead of building frontage. So you get a wider variety of views, and the sheriff has real-time access to those views.
Sure.
So that's our view of the additional safety benefit you can get from those.
Two more quick questions. And you mentioned that you later changed the ordinance, or the ordinance evolved to allow it one per any retail establishment, right?
One per shopping center.
One per shopping center. So 0 to 10,000 square, 0 to 9999, they would get one kiosk?
If it's a shopping center.
For a shopping center. But
the smallest one we have is 11,000 square
feet.
feet.
That is the smallest. We don't have anything under that.
Correct.
Okay, that answers that question. And then the last question, I think, is regarding the revenue sharing comment. Have you looked at other cities? Do they have revenue sharing plans? And could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, we have. Now, in a public, just because Michael pointed out that in some cases, Santa Monica being one, they have some in the public way, right? So that's a contract directly with the municipality. So obviously that's a different animal. But in terms of a private property setup, in Glendale, they have arrangements for 15% of the revenue going to the city. And that's for an amortized period. I don't recall what the period of time is, but they get some of the revenue from that.
Okay. And so
it's through a development agreement.
Santa Monica, Glendale, and Culver City were the only
ones we've discovered so far, but I'm sure we could find more.
And Culver City doesn't have a revenue sharing plan?
We didn't find that they did.
Okay. All right. That's all the questions I had.
Thank you. James?
Yes, I have a little bit of a different take on this from the Planning Commission. I actually am not as concerned about the sign clutter, because these are going to be located in kind of urban commercialized centers and not, just sitting on the sidewalk somewhere in a scenic corridor or something like that. And I understand from your presentation, which I kind of felt before, that it was mostly going to be in the interior anyways, where it wouldn't be visible from the street and it wouldn't be that obtrusive. Couple things. I would like to consider a version of this ordinance with some changes. I think having 20, I'm visualizing a maximum of 22 at the Commons. 22 would be unacceptable. So anything that would even provide for that under any circumstances would not be something I would support. The way I look at it, this is something that should be at a shopping center that's maybe 50,000 square feet minimum. And the smaller ones are just too small, and it would be obtrusive in those. I would also do a different formula so that the Commons maybe would have, 3 maybe. That sounds like a reasonable number, and the other ones would have that number or less. A little flexible on that, but somewhere not 22. Then I thought, did the staff look at all at a concept of doing a pilot program? Like where we would try it at one shopping center. Like sometimes the state will have, like in the election laws, they had a pilot program which applied to LA County and one other county of putting city council races and local municipal races at the top of the ballot. That was only for a pilot program, only for a few counties to see how it worked out. Have we thought of some ordinance like that? And I'm assuming, Pam, that would be legal to do. So if we looked at it and said, okay, we're going to focus on the Commons, which actually is a conditional use permit and has its own separate sign program, we could go in there and easily do that one where we'd say, okay, our pilot program is going to be, we're going to do it here with 3 kiosks. And did staff look at that at all?
No, it's a great idea. Happy to look into it if the council wants us to.
So those are some of my thoughts. I think the best way, I don't know that we would be well served by just trying to pass something tonight. But I think if after you hear all of our comments, if there's a majority that want to move forward with this, I certainly would be supportive of a much reduced from what's in the staff report as I outlined.
Just for clarity, you had mentioned at the Commons, for example, maybe 3 digital kiosks. Is that on top of their existing non-digital kiosks? They have about 12 non-digital kiosks right now.
Well, I don't know what was this ordinance going to do exactly with those.
It would accommodate, currently as it's written, it would accommodate up to 22 kiosks, and it could be any total kiosk, and it could be any mixture of non-digital or digital.
For my purposes, because they are a little more intrusive, I would say that we keep the digital part of it separate. Like we could say you could have 12 kiosks as they're presently. I mean, that one we have flexibility because there's a sign program there that we could just amend, right? I mean, we don't even need an ordinance.
Well, we can't, but they would have to amend it.
We can. I meant we I said one could amend. You could keep it, or one could keep it at 12 of those and then add another 3 digitalized ones. I'm just throwing out numbers. I just was I would tell you a hard no on the 22. If you gave me anything that allowed them to do 22 under any circumstance, like at the maximum, I would say no. It would have to be a much more controlled number than that, and a smaller one.
Right. The way the ordinance is written now, it would allow for, like we said, up to 22, but let's just say obviously less than that. So they have 11 or 12 kiosks today. If they were to convert all 12 to this digital form, the way the ordinance is written, they could do that. And we get a camera on each, or a set of cameras on each one.
I think 12 is too many.
They have 12 today. My example is, what if you just converted all 12 of those to digital?
No, I'm saying I think 12 digital ones is too many. I don't think 12 kiosks is too many because some of them are very small and some of them are placed in different areas. I just don't want to go in there and see nothing but digital displays, and that's what 22 would do, or maybe even 12. But what I'm saying, the upshot of what I'm saying is, if you're looking for a consensus, is that I don't have a problem with the concept of this ordinance, but it needs some additional work before I'd vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Ed?
Thank you. Thank you. Having been through the Commons so many times, when this ordinance when this subject came up of the digital cameras, it had me baffled a little bit because I think most of us that travel in that shopping center enjoy the sanctity of it, the quietness, the European architecture. It's got a nice flavor about it. It feels very safe. And it hasn't had a lot of change. You can expect the same thing over and over or better. So I was reluctant to want to have a digitalized kiosk. And I took a drive this week, knowing we're talking about this tonight, because I never really thought about the kiosks before. It never bothered me. It's never come up in the public. No one's mentioned, oh, those kiosks, you know, they're so unsightly. There hasn't been one word by anybody. And I was curious how many we had. So I drove around twice. I counted each one. And it's quite surprising. By Crossroads in Williams-Sonoma, there's 2. Marmalade, there's 2. Polachek's, there's 2. I might be off by 1 on the singles because I was driving. C's, Jenny's Ice Cream, the Regency, Lulu, and Fazio both have singles. I counted 11. So I could be off by 1. I like the architecture. I like the height. It was not bothering me at all. I also watched the entire Planning Commission meeting, and I thought they did a great job. It was very well vetted. You may not like the outcome or what the results were, but I thought they brought a lot of insights to bear. I know you were there. It was fiery. Chair Fassberg did a great job of managing it. And ultimately, the idea of suggestions helped me consider how I really felt about it and how others might feel about it. So I'm going to ramble a little bit, but if you can bear with me. Then the subject that's always been on the top of our mind of public safety, how does that factor in? So we're going to have cameras. We're going to have public safety improved because we're going to feed it into the captain. But then there's the digitalizing, and is it going to be a distraction? Now, you don't see 11 or 12 kiosks, but when they're lit up and moving around, you do a little bit. And it concerns me if we're going to do all of them digitalized or just a few. I think the bet that I would make is that with revenue sharing, it would soften the decision for me very, very much, and probably others. The revenue sharing makes a big deal. I can blink a little bit when it happens because that value can add value to what we're doing with our public safety funds. It'll bring extra money in. The question is really how much of a revenue sharing is available. You mentioned 30% or a lower amount than I had in mind. I was thinking maybe more like 50-50, but that stream of income could certainly help us in many, many ways. If we go forward with this, I'd like to see that included. I'd love to have Pam and her office put together legally how that revenue system would work, map it out, so there's clarity about it. But incorporating that, I think, is the way to go for us. I also like the idea of testing it out a little bit, maybe on a few, and see how it feels, how bright they are, because there's also the aesthetics of it, the conditions of what is being shown, how rapidly the motion is. If you're going to have somebody with Nike sneakers running around and playing basketball, as opposed to a woman or a subject matter that's delicate and moving very slightly. They want to get attention, and that's going to be the success of the kiosk. So I think we have to work on that, and I think That's a very, very important element. So when you factor in that we're going to benefit from public safety, and then another, just want to mention before I slip it by, the public safety aspect with Captain C2 and her advanced thinking. She's such a visionary. It wouldn't surprise me that when AI is introduced, that these cameras would also recognize people, not necessarily faces, because that would be an invasion of privacy, but people. It'll be able to tell the difference between a lion and a tiger, between criminals and thefts and cleaning crews. We can put a geofence around the commons to protect it after hours. There's a lot of things we can do with that. We can increase our private public security. So I'd like to see a blend of that. I don't think we're ready tonight or even close, but I think a lot of the comments that the commission made, Planning Commission, were valid. And I'd like to address them and also certainly put my vote forward and consider the cameras and the test of it, maybe just a few of them. Because if we like it, and it seems to be okay, this is really taking our blue sky laws and bringing them down to the sidewalk in a different form. So the aesthetics and the testing, this is where the value that can really help the community. And those are my comments.
Thank you, Ed. David?
Thank you, and I appreciate all my colleagues' comments. Quick question, in the smaller centers you're referring to, how would one camera work with security? Because you're talking about still 11,000 square feet, depending on where that kiosk might go. It's not going to, the cameras aren't going to reach all the way across the length of the commercial center. How is that possibly going to make sense or work for the purpose of security, public safety?
Yeah, we agree it may not work in every scenario. Once again, the original draft that went forward to Planning Commission recommended 50,000 square feet or greater. The Commission requested to modify that to allow for any shopping center. But we did point out that practically not every shopping center may be able to accommodate these digital kiosks, nor will it necessarily accomplish the goal that you had just mentioned.
Right. Because to me, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just want to say the purpose, the intent for then including everybody was to allow them to be able to have the security benefit, the same, regardless of what size shopping center is, to get the same opportunity. Now, they don't get multiple cameras. The small center get one set of two, but right now they don't have a kiosk at all, so it's still an improvement for them. And remember, it's a smaller center, so they don't have as much space to cover. But that was the intent, was to provide for fairness, regardless of the size of the shopping center that a property owner was, maintaining.
Are you going to say, I'm ready to keep going, but
May I, Councilman, just add to that if I can? I just had a conversation this afternoon with Captain C2, and so I haven't even had a chance to update staff on some of these, the conversation that we had. She unfortunately couldn't stay for this, and so if we can, or if there is a choice or a decision by the council to postpone this, as it seems like where this is going, to get more information from staff, she'd like to come back. But to your point about the camera, what does it see? We're working with the Lost Hill Station on another project. It's still in the conceptual stage of replacing some of our cameras at our intersections. And in that, we've learned a lot about cameras. And one of the things that the sheriff's station, the Lost Hill Station, is encouraging is, at least right now, the technology is the point tilt zoom cameras. In essence, you can have a camera that swings 360 degrees. You'll have the little blackout spots because of the frame, but you could have a camera that could have a full range, almost mobility inside that kiosk. Now that's today's technology. One of the things that I talked to Captain C2 about is we may want to incorporate into the ordinance, if the council moves forward, that the cameras that are placed in these kiosks come at the recommendation of our sheriff's station, meaning that way they know what's fully integrated. It's some of the best technology that's out there. And so, for example, if we do a pilot program, or if one shopping center puts in 3 or 4 now, and then a shopping center in 2 years comes in and puts in 2 kiosks, that technology is going to be very, very different in 2 years than what it is today. And so we would want to use the latest technology for those cameras, whatever that might be.
Thank you. And again, this to me is really about public safety. It's not about the advertising or revenue potential sharing. I watched the Planning Commission meetings as well, and I have not heard, nor do I see anything in the report, maybe I missed it, any numbers of the, even though you talked about Glendale being 15% amortized, I believe. What does that amount to? Do you have any idea what those numbers would be? I'm kind of jumping here.
Yes, we did look into that, and it is only the one data point, but these are numbers for the Galleria, for example, in the Americana, and their foot traffic is approximately, Michael, I think I actually looked up the data. We would have half as much in the Commons that they do. So not as lucrative for advertisers, but not lucrative.
So, yeah, we did reach out to Glendale, and we got, and through their public records option, the Americana gets an annual revenue share of about $150,000. They have 24 kiosks, and they also have twice as many visitors per year that the Commons has. And then the Galleria has the city gets about $50,000 a year annually from the revenue share component with the Galleria. I don't know how many kiosks they have at the Galleria, though.
Okay, and the 22 you referred to, or 24 you mentioned, it's based upon the number of kiosks, not the foot traffic, correct, as far as the revenue goes?
It'd be both. I mean, the revenue is directly related to the amount of advertising that they can get and the amount of the eyeballs that they can get on those screens. So, again, they have 24 kiosks, and they also have about 4 million visitors per year.
It's much larger than here,
Yes.
there's no question. But there's something, if, again, that isn't my priority in looking at this at all, but if we were to do something at all with any revenue sharing, I like the concept of the funds going towards our city's public safety or public safety enhancements or staff, whatever it might be, that at least it's earmarked for something of that nature. But that's not the priority. The priority is public safety to me. Also, I assume even in the smaller, where you indicated, or you had a rendering of 3 kiosks in one of the smaller centers, ADA compliance, of course, is going to be required at any public walkway or public right-of-way in these commercial centers, correct?
Yes, it's written in the ordinance.
Right. I'm just verifying it. And all these cameras will be, as Kinda mentioned, directly to the Sheriff's Real-Time Crime Center. That's the purpose of the public safety aspect of this, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I have to agree, I thought when we first spoke about this, it was for larger centers. I think we talked about 5 or 6 in the city and not going to smaller centers. That whether it was a pilot program or just a selective area, because that's where the largest number of people would be, the largest commercial centers. We heard tonight about an incident right here at Ralph's. Those are the things I think we were looking at when we brought it forward or brought it to this point. So I'm more interested in that. I have no problem supporting smaller centers, but to me, the larger centers make more sense. The one thing I noticed in the recommendations I don't necessarily agree with, because I've been to Culver City, I've seen them in Glendale. I thought I've seen them in Burbank also, Palisades, and just yesterday in Century City as well, by the way, that these do exist. I think they're more prevalent than we are aware of in commercial shopping centers. I think, again, 25 years ago, the Commons, is it 25 or 26 now? Commons opened, and it's amazing, and it's going through some modifications or changes now. So while the recommendation, and I forgot which number it was, I don't think I had a number, of the 1 slide per 30 seconds is understandable, I also would agree with what I heard Councilmember Albeck saying, that at all these commercial centers, there are some stills, and then there are, let's say, a preview of a movie, let's say what's out now, Wicked, that would run for 30 seconds. It wouldn't just be a still. So if we're going to approve this type of concept, I'd be more interested in looking at what is really much more modern and much more realistic today, every place I've been, than just a picture or photograph, which we can see. We don't need the electronic. It can be a still photo that works like a slide, probably, or of that nature. So that's just a comment of mine. What is the height of the current kiosks now at the Commons, for example?
Our rough measurement was about 11 feet.
Okay, so they're within the recommended was originally
Yes.
12, and then it was proposed at 10, I believe, if I read,
Yes.
10 by 5 feet wide. So it's within, if we were to allow for either a test or support this type of project to go forward, or this ordinance to go forward, it would be, those in place could be made into the type of kiosk that we're discussing here. Okay.
Yes.
Let me see, you already said the planning vote, they already talked about revenue. Again, to me, it's about public safety. It's about anything we can do in the city to improve public safety. The revenue sharing, certainly open to listening. That isn't my primary purpose at all in saying I like this and I would support the concept. And I don't want to just limit it to a very few, but I understand if we want to do that as a council, as a majority for the test project, I would certainly understand that. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay, I'll jump into my comments. I think I might look at this a little bit differently. To me, this is just something that basically I think exists everywhere but here. It's allowed at in the city of Los Angeles. So when David mentioned the Palisades, Century City, it's everywhere. I think you don't even realize that you see these all over. They're just not a big deal anymore. It's like the Commons is however old, 25, 26. The kiosks are old. And this, to me, is an ordinance, or would be, that would be keeping up with the times and modernizing what people see at our shopping centers, and most importantly, the public safety concept. But I was wondering if you could go back to page 8 in the in the PowerPoint. Because I was even on my own, the Porter Ranch, the Vineyards project, they're there, they're everywhere. Like, you just don't even realize that this is now the norm. And it's not some big flashy thing. I mean, these are property owners who want customers to come to their shopping center. They don't want some crazy light show that's gonna blind you and not make you wanna come. So this is this a static image? Where is this in Manhattan? Where is this, Manhattan Beach? Where is this? Village at the Peaks? I don't know where that is. But
It's at 1250 North Hoover Road.
Okay.
I don't know
Wait, no, we
exactly
go
where it
to,
was.
or wait, will you go to the example page? Sorry, the example one. There was another slide, not slide 8.
One before.
The one with the different picture. Okay, here. So Manhattan Village, relatively, last, 5 years shopping center. That's like a classy, clean look. And then the next one, I'm not exactly sure where that is, but like
Westfield, Topanga.
Westfield, Topanga, right. Clean, nice, but these are, when shopping centers are making investments, this is what they're putting in. And I want to support that it makes sense to me at the Commons and even across the street, larger shopping centers. I don't want anything that's static and that doesn't get, that's not like keeping up with the times. I mean, every shopping center and places, the fact that Culver City's doing it on their public right away, I'm not advocating for that for Old Town, but I think they're getting $500,000 in revenue in their city streets, and that's such a conservative community in terms of how they approve design things. So these aren't intrusive and blinding, so I don't want to support anything that's just static and you can't change things. I want people to embrace this. I want the cameras. This is just modern technology. I have zero issue with it. We have responsible property owners. If people end up not wanting to go to a shopping center because they're blinded by these kiosks, they're going to change it up. To me, this is just a nothing issue. These are everywhere. You walk through the mall, you don't even realize you're seeing them. You go across the country to different outdoor malls, they're everywhere now. They're clean, they're sleek, they're modern, and I just want to make sure we're advancing with the times. City of LA, they're permitted in their shopping centers. The revenue sharing, I don't really have enough information about that to comment on that. Well, the one question I wanted to know, can you go back to the list of the shopping centers that would be included? Okay, thanks. I guess my question was, will the Post Office Shibuya Cafe Cito Shopping Center, would they even like invest in this? I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. We want to entice them to put the cameras in, and the way Kindon described the rotating camera. So I don't really, if they can make it work, I don't know what, I just don't know if it's as realistic if they would be jumping at the opportunity. But I mean, I think the Commons, the Courtyard, Creekside, the Summit, Gelson's, I don't really have an issue offering it to everyone. I don't know if they'll take advantage of it because it's a big investment. It's an expensive investment.
It is, and to be successful in attracting the advertising entity that would
Right.
provide the service, because that's really what they're
Exactly.
going to do. You're not likely to get it for one of these smaller ones, but
Right.
again, we're trying to have as a zoning ordinance, have something that would apply fairly to
Right.
anybody who wants to take advantage of it. Now, whether they can actually make it work, pencil,
Right.
so who's to say? But that's why it was revised in the
Yeah.
way that it is.
Right. So my big concern is I don't want anything static. I don't want like how it was limited. I want it to be like modern.
Dynamic.
Dynamic, that's the word. Like the examples that you showed. Like, I mean, they're everywhere. I've been snapping pictures since we started talking about this, ever since I read about the Culver City one. So that would be, when this comes back, that would be my recommendation.
Thank you.
Are there any other further questions from council or staff?
Well, I guess if we moved to table it, which was one of the alternatives, what would happen? Would you guys just take our comments and then come back?
Yes, that we would definitely, we have a lot of information and questions from the group, and we'd be able to come back to you with something that cooks some of that in. We'd have answers to questions. I don't see that we'd have any reason to go back to Planning Commission unless the council wants us to.
I don't think, they did their work and there were two recommendations in front of us. One was theirs and one was an alternative. I mean, how long would it be before you came back, do you think?
Well, it would also be helpful to get a little bit of clarity or consensus on that direction, because I am hearing almost 5 different direction points.
Well,
Maybe a few of them
what?
overlap, but I'm,
Do you want to
3 max here.
Like, what
and-
issue do you want?
Do you want to ask a question and then we can go through to give you direction?
I mean, it would be helpful to understand, because what we're looking at mostly is the standards, right? So the ordinance would establish what the criteria would be, how big the shopping center has to be, right? The minimum size, and how many kiosks you're allowed, whether that's a combination of digital and non-digital, the size. It kind of sounds like there's a consensus on the size, that everyone's generally okay with the proposed size. But really, again, I think it's that the allowed number of kiosks, the revenue share component, because I'm not hearing a clear direction on that either. And then the minimum shopping center, that would be helpful to know.
All right, well, just to start it out,
Peter?
50,000, as I said before, would be 50,000 square feet, at least preliminarily. And then I would do some formula that only allowed a couple, maybe 3, like I said, 3 at the Commons and then going down, 3 to 5 at the Commons, say, and then going down to 1 maybe at the smallest one at Gelson's Village. And then revenue sharing, I'm flexible. That's not a big part of my concerns. That would be it.
And
Peter?
I think I'm leaning a little more towards what I heard from the mayor. The Commons is currently 1 per 18, if you think about 12 into 220. I think a number like 1 in 15 or 1 in 20 is probably appropriate. I'd probably even be leaning more towards the 1 in 15 number, which would allow them a few more than what they have now, but not an overwhelming number. And I only use the Commons as an example because it's something I think we can all picture the spacing of them, when it comes to revenue sharing, you know, if 24 kiosks and 4 million visitor foot traffic gets you 150,000, then 12 kiosks and 2 million is going to get us 37,000. I don't know that that's enough of a number to be fussing with. If we would increase the percentage, if that was viable, then I think it'd be worthwhile to put in. But if 15% is the most we could hope for, I would probably not bother. So I would investigate a higher percentage, and if it's realistic, then let's look at some revenue sharing. And was there a third question?
Well, you didn't, the one thing I think, when you gave your formula, I mean, my formula was assuming that they're not necessarily going to remove any of these, but if your formula was to let them do like up to 22 combination, I think you have to still give a maximum of how many of those could be digital. I mean, you don't want 22 digital ones there.
I think if a shopping center changes out their signage from static to digital, they're going to do it across the board for the same look everywhere. So I would allow all digital. Around 1 per 15,000 sounds about right. Again, it gets the commons a few more than what they currently have for static and allows them to go all digital with it.
So
I would
just-
say,
Oh, sorry, just to clarify, at 1 per 15, that would give the commons roughly 14 to 15.
yeah,
So that gets you, I think, where you were trying to get to.
a few more than what they have now and gives them a little more flexibility with the new stuff coming in. I would say that we do want to say that it would be square footage of shopping center built and maintained, so that if they decrease the amount of commercial space, the number of kiosks would have to go proportionally with it. Let's just be fair about this. That'd be it.
Are you getting the answers regarding the static, or, wait, what was the word you used, Tom?
Dynamic.
Dynamic.
I'm okay with dynamic as long as we have some way to say not too, we don't want to induce a vertigo or anything like that. But I agree, you know, if there's a movie trailer that takes up a 15-second clip, you know, and then you're back to static pictures for a couple of minutes, that's pretty good use of the technology. And I don't know how to write that, though, so
Yeah, I know,
I'll leave you with that
that's gonna be a
challenge.
tricky code thing, but we'll give it a shot.
Well, currently, as the way it's written, no audio is being proposed. So if you did want the allowance for movie trailers, then obviously we'd have to change the audio portion. And I know with a lot of these displays, some cities do allow dynamics, but I've seen a lot where they're just they're static displays, but you know, they flip every 30 seconds. And of course, we do have the illumination restriction, and that can dampen some of the adverse effects of the lighting. But in terms of whether or not you'd want dynamic or static display as part of it, that's really up to you. But I think if the concern is if it's too much, you'd want to start with just having the static displays just being interchangeable every 30 or a minute or whatever you want. So.
See, I don't know how to articulate what we see. Like when I go to Westfield or you go to Manhattan Village, like I don't know how to articulate what we're seeing, or at the Grove. Like, what is that? So I would need.
For the most part, they're static displays, but they're switching it up. You're not seeing some certain ones. You'll see models moving, but for the most part, it's an advertisement. It's just able to be rotated every 30 seconds.
But that's not what's in the proposed ordinance.
The
And so to
proposed ordinance right now would only allow for static displays, because you can't change the image any faster than 1 per 30 seconds. At the mall, at some of the other locations, they don't have that specificity or that kind of restriction, so the advertisers can choose. Sometimes they may have a couple static displays followed by a 15-second animated clip or dynamic clip. I mean, it's just there's various options. Each advertiser might come to the shopping center with their own needs and their requirement, and it is very tricky to try and account for that within the ordinance, because again, we have to look at it objectively, and we cannot really regulate the content. We can only regulate these standards. So, if the desire is to only allow static images, then I think as it's currently written, it accomplishes that. If the desire is to not be that rigid and allow more flexibility, then we should eliminate that provision.
David?
I would support, and I do support, being less rigid and allowing for the dynamic. And again, some of the videos I've seen, I mentioned one earlier, there's no sound on it, but it is a video of a promotion of a movie. But there's no, and again, maybe that's that one center or two centers that I've seen. There are many that may have that as a restriction also within their shopping, commercial setting.
Yeah.
So-
And I would encourage keeping the audio off as well, allowing no audio.
But I do support the dynamic, not just the still photo slideshow, as I call it. I understand completely what the Planning Commission and what you've recommended to allow for the option for everyone to have it under the ordinance, while I do agree with James on the size as well, but I am flexible. And as far as the revenue, what was the other question? Yes, revenue sharing? No. Yeah, revenue sharing is worth looking into. I would think it would have to be a sliding scale. It would, it would have a sunset. It wouldn't just go on forever. I can't imagine commercial settings are going to want to share 50-50 or whatever numbers we're looking at to make it work. But that isn't my primary focus, is on public safety, not the revenue aspect. So hopefully that answers.
Ed?
I think we did a great job tonight of coming up with a lot of comments. I like the mayor's comments. It needs to be fresh, but also needs to be sensible. I personally like the dynamic side because I think it's part of that freshness and newness. When the kiosks came into the Commons when they opened up originally, it was pretty cool. It gave a wonderful feeling, a different feeling that any other shopping center had. And I think we would like to have the same thing, but mindful of how bright they are. And I certainly wouldn't want to have the audio. I think that would be a big distraction. And probably not safe. Kids would jump around it, and they're usually by the curb, and I don't think they'd pay much attention to cars. But just the audio itself, I'm not in favor of it. And the revenue sharing, you can get carried away with it a little bit, and fingers crossed that it would be helpful to offload some of our costs to other services, but I'm not sure how much that's going to really play in. I heard numbers of 50-50, but even with our limited amount of foot traffic, I would be surprised if we get that. So the priority of that, the kiosk, is really the camera. You can't have if you want a kiosk, you got to have a camera, and that's where the public safety aspect plays in the most important.
And I think, so my comments, dynamic. I understand the comment about the 50,000 or larger from James. I'm fine opening it up to everyone because I just don't see these smaller shopping centers having the foot traffic to generate the advertisers. So, I mean, if they do, like, more power to them, but I just don't really see it. So I don't really have an issue like opening it up to everyone because I don't see the harm if it, I don't know. I'm a little torn on that one, but I don't know. I just don't see it happening, that we're gonna get these larger kiosks that advertisers are gonna want to do that. I mean, I think the camera part would be great. And then, what was your other question? Oh, the number? And like a sensible number. I mean, whatever they have now, how many what was the number you?
They got 12 kiosks, which is one for every 18,000 square feet.
That's what they have now?
That's what they have now.
And
So what I suggested was one for 15,000 square feet, which would give them a little bit more than that.
I'm fine with that. I just want to be sensible with this because it's really, to me, like not an issue. These are everywhere, and we don't even realize that we see them everywhere. So and I think the fact that we would get these extra cameras is a win for us. So.
My one suggestion with regards to the shopping center size, the minimum 50,000 square feet, I understand that there's a desire for equity to allow all the shopping centers access to it. The smaller ones are trickier in terms of being able to fit them and accommodate them, and because they're smaller, there could be more visibility from the street, and we do want to avoid that. So I believe that's where we landed at the 50,000 square feet, because now you're talking about the larger shopping centers that are set much farther back from the street. So if that helps provide any direction, that's where we started there.
If we went with the 50,000, we can come back at a later point and reevaluate.
Could always modify the ordinance
We can
down the
modify
road.
the ordinance, yeah.
And if we could, Madam Mayor, I thought I read it in there that there is a restriction. You can't have these, especially if we're talking about visuals and some dynamics, you can't have them on the street to potentially distract
Correct.
drivers or pedestrians, or drivers anyway, of any kind. So I'm looking at the post office Shabu. The way to get business there wouldn't be from the few people who are already parked going to it. It would be on the outside, like they already have some signage. So I am okay with, as I mentioned earlier, the 50,000 as being a benchmark and offering it later or bringing it back later.
And that's what originally we had talked about, just the larger shopping centers, that it was just going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shopping centers, 5 shopping centers. So.
Correct.
Yeah, if I may ask, there was some discussion about doing a trial thing and whether there might be some benefit of trying to accomplish something like that, a pilot program, if you will. Is that something the council as a group would like for us to investigate?
That was my suggestion. I don't know what everyone else thought.
Peter?
I don't think it's necessary. I think we're mostly in agreement of direction at this point in time, and I think we're in favor of moving forward with it in this altered state.
Thank you.
Kindon?
Mayor, if I could, I know there's some question from the council on revenue sharing. If we could direct staff to continue to look at that. Just as a reminder, our current budget, we were 90,000 in the black. That's not a big margin. So we're 90,000 in the general fund. So even if it's 30,000 or 50,000 or 75,000 that we're generating, that's a big number, especially if we're paying for flock cameras or other traffic cameras. I think our flock camera cost right now is 42,000 a year. So it offsets some of those current expenses for public safety that we're already incurring. So again, it's a thin margin at 90,000, so any new revenue is wonderful to have.
So you can bring that back with the revisions.
We'll include the revenue sharing aspect of it and set it at a certain amount, knowing that for those that provide additional information, like maybe smaller shopping centers, that their margins may be smaller, we can adjust that, because almost all of the revenue sharing that we have in other cities is done by development agreement. So that would be included as part of that. It'll earmark where the funds are spent and the public benefit that it'll provide. So that would be included as part of that. But what would be included in the ordinance is that it would be subject to a development agreement with respect to the revenue sharing.
And can you provide examples of other community, like public-private situations? Okay. Great. Are there any further questions? Thank you so much. It was a great presentation. A lot of good information.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. So let's see, what action do we need to take? Just to continue the item, do we need a motion and a second?
I'll move to table.
Second.
Do we need it?
We don't want to table.
Do you want to table it, or do you want to continue it to a...
Continue, it has to be to a date certain, doesn't it?
No.
No, we would just renotice it, but it would be continued. We would continue
All right,
working on it.
continue. To a date uncertain.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Next item is new business, approval of a permanent microtransit program, demand response weekend service, and our Public Works Director, Curtis Castle, will present this report with Tatiana and Treya.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Temp, and council members. The city's been running a pilot microtransit program for almost 2 years now, which has given us an opportunity to collect some data And recently, we've done some surveys on it, and this is in response to some questions and concerns the council had the last time this item was before the council. So Travis Desney is going to present on this and provide update. We do have a recommendation at the end of this, but we are definitely open to feedback from council.
Thank you, Curtis. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. Tonight we'll be presenting an update on the Calabasas Microtransit Pilot Program, and staff will be asking for council direction regarding this program moving forward. I'll provide a bit of background of how we got here. I'll look at current ridership, the results of a survey we put out to the community, discuss options of what this program will look like moving forward, and a quick discussion about the fiscal impacts this program has on our budget. Prior to the creation of the existing pilot, the city's weekend transit consisted of the weekend trolley. The trolley operated on a fixed route service, stopping at bus stops on a 1-hour loop. The program averaged 13 riders a month and typically was seen running empty. Keeping up maintenance for the trolley was costing roughly $6,000 per year and accounted for 18% of the annual maintenance budget alone. Staff looked at the cost of the program and the lack of ridership and wanted to come up with a program that would be more beneficial to the community. Microtransit was the solution staff came up with. Microtransit's a shared transportation service to provide on-demand rides. Essentially, it's a public form of ride sharing, offering balance and flexibility to its riders. Currently, the pilot operates Saturday and Sunday as a door-to-door service with a 15 to 30-minute response time. To get here, staff brought the item to council in January of last year to amend the existing contract with Ideal General Services and create the pilot program. Again, the driver for this amendment was the trolley experiencing low ridership and high operating costs. Utilizing the existing contract allowed for a cost savings of $26,000 per year. In August of last year, staff presented a discussion of options to turn the program into a permanent program. During that meeting, council members agreed that a survey of the community was needed, and council also requested staff look into the high cost per rider, providing out-of-city destinations, and a lack of ride sharing that was occurring. Since we started the program, we have had an average of 63 monthly riders, roughly 8 per day. So this program has been more successful than the trolley program that it replaced. In October of this year, a survey was posted online. It was in the city's e-news, mayor's letter, posted on social media. The flyer was posted at City Hall, it still is, and on our shuttle buses. Finally, paper surveys were provided to the Senior Center, and council advertised the survey at past council meetings. Thank you. The survey consisted of 10 questions and asked about what Calabasas transit programs have they used, if they've used any, when and where would they take this transit, a preferred booking method and cost, the age and location in the city, and other comments that they'd like to provide about transit as a whole or this particular program. So 3% of those who took the survey used microtransit before. 59% have not used any transit, and most of them stating the reason was they did not know about the transit options available to them. For the most part, people want to go to shopping centers. That was the top result for where they wanted to go. Next were parks and city facilities and recreation centers. And they want to use transit Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Friday to Sunday, 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. %51% requested an app to be their top choice of how to book, and 85% would pay the existing cost or more. So between $5 a round trip, which is the current cost, and up to $8 per round trip. And then other comments focused on increasing marketing for the program. A lot of people said, again, they did not know about it, or they didn't know, they thought that it was only for seniors, disabled, what have you. And then this slide shows how spread out the responses were by geographic location and ages of those responded. And I'm actually very happy that we kind of reached this kind of broad range of people. I was expecting more of the middle-aged and the older seniors, and I was expecting it to be a little bit more centralized in the city, but it spread out pretty well. So previous concerns brought to staff attention at the last council meeting were the high cost per rider, providing out-of-city locations and ride sharing. The high cost per rider has trended up since the last meeting because we've had a slight decrease in the average riders per month. But it is still lower than it was when the trolley ran. So the solution for this is to get more riders utilizing the service by increasing marketing and usability with a mobile app. More users are traveling to out-of-city destinations than in the first year, and council is concerned about keeping those shoppers in Calabasas. There are 3 potential solutions to this. Pending council approval of a permanent program, we can eliminate those out-of-city locations for microtransit users, limit those locations, or continue with the current locations. Finally, natural instances of ride sharing have not occurred beyond members of a family unit. Again, the solution to this would be to increase marketing and usability, which would increase opportunities for passengers to need rides at the same time. With these solutions to previous concerns, staff is looking for direction from council to decide between 3 options for the program moving forward. Option 1 would be to make the program permanent as is. Option 2 is to make the program permanent with an expansion to service. Option 3 would be to end the pilot and discontinue the program. Before we ask council to discuss these options, we would like to continue the presentation and provide additional information on what next steps for these options would look like and what the fiscal impacts are. The next steps for options 1 and 2 to make the program permanent either as is or with expansion. First, staff would develop a request for proposals to provide an app-based scheduling and payment, provide opportunities for continuous study and modification as needed, and provide low or no emission vehicles, or provide a plan for this transition to be in line with our zero emission transit plan. Staff would then present this contract to council for the new program to begin July 1st, and the existing pilot would continue as is until the new contract is in effect. If council chooses to discontinue the program, staff would still develop a new RFP for a dial-a-ride only and still request an app and low or no emission vehicles. This new contract will be presented to council for the contract to begin on July 1st, and the existing program would still continue as is until the new contract. Calabasas Transit in its entirety is funded by a Los Angeles County Metro Local Return. Propositions A and C are half-cent sales taxes the county collects and reallocates. Part of how Metro determines allocation is by the operating cost of our service. So by continuing to have this service and utilizing our allocation, we reduce the risk of having lapsing funds, and we increase our opportunity for additional allocation in the future. Again, Calabasas Transit is entirely funded by Metro, and no general fund is used for these programs. There's currently budget for the pilot to remain until July 1st, and there will be budget based on projected allocations to operate a permanent program next fiscal year and for subsequent years. Staff recommends that City Council approve the creation of a permanent microtransit program by making the program permanent either with existing times, destinations, and fares, or with the expansion of destinations and hours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Treya. We'll start with questions. Peter?
I don't really have a question, but I am noting that in the staff report, you mentioned the solution to the summary of concerns was eliminating out-of-city locations, and yet in the requested action, it would be to expand the program. You don't have a suggested action to decrease the program.
Yes, it is. The wrong word was used for that. Modification would be a better word to use instead of strictly an expansion.
Okay. I don't have any other major questions, and I would, if we're just, I might as well throw some comments out. I would be in favor of option 1 or 2, pending what my fellow council members have to share.
Thank you. James?
Me as well. 1 or 2 is fine.
Ed?
Yeah, just a quick comment, though. When the trolley first came out, it was the coolest thing. I mean, imagine moving and having young children and seeing the trolley come around all the time. We were chasing it in our car. Dad, come on, let's go get the trolley. That was the only game in town in those days. I'm certainly in favor of one or two, probably more inclined, for one, but I'm good with either one. I love the fact that it's much more efficient for people with Uber now being available. I don't like to keep the program closer to Calabasas. Do they want to go out to somewhere in Topanga, to the village or otherwise, they can always take an Uber. This is going to be for the locals. And there's no additional cost to doing all this, so it's just making it a more efficient program.
Thank you, Ed. David?
Thank you very much. Excellent report. Just going back to your slide, because it caught me off guard. The one looking at hours and usage recommended, I think that was polled. It said, originally said Monday to Friday, 6 to 6, then Friday to Sunday, 12 to 6. Is that Monday to Thursday, 6 to 6, or Saturday, Sunday, 12 to 6? There's got to be a change in there, right?
So the idea of what we were looking at for the survey was including the Friday to Sunday for weekend. So the option for the Friday to Sunday included a later hour for those going out at night. And then Monday through Friday for, your weekday daily trips.
Right. On the bottom, it says Monday to Friday, 6 to 6, then Friday to Sunday, 12
There
to
is
6.
an overlap because of how the survey was presented.
Okay. And I would agree with my colleagues, absolutely, and especially no general funds used because we have A and C. So I would say I would support either option 1 or 2, but probably option 2. It seemed like there was a desire for that, for the limited out-of-area opportunities. But what are you going to say? Let me know.
Yeah, one way we could work with option 2 is when we write the RFP, we would make, we would keep the program as is as part of the base scope, and then just ask those proposers to submit a cost and for additional times and be optional. We would add that if we wanted to.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay, I just have a few questions for anyone watching this. If you want to use this program, can you just walk me through it?
So right now, if you want to use this program, you call our service provider, 818-632. I thought I had
So
it.
close, so close.
The number is on our website, and we will ensure that we're doing a little bit more promotion on this to make sure that people are aware of it. But yeah, you call the service provider, tell them, hi, my name is this, I'm located here. In about half an hour, I want to go here. And
then I'm just walking through it. And then you have to have cash?
No, they do have onboard payment. You can also pay after the fact through their accounting system.
Okay, but you can use like Apple Pay or, okay. So, and then I saw there were some comments on here. The on-demand transit sounds great for teenagers 14 to 16. And then I saw we had some responders under 18. But how old do you have to be to call this service?
So currently, we are limiting it to 18 and over for liability and safety reasons.
Okay.
But having an app, we would be able to look into that to ensure that if a minor is riding, that they are the only one riding. It would have some other, because we would then have tracking on the vehicles. We would have other things to help keep them safe. But that is something that we do want to look into. But currently, until
I think people who aren't, I think people would support that. And then
Exactly.
I didn't understand this part of the report. Finally, ride sharing has not been occurring beyond members of the same family unit riding together. What did on page 5 of 6?
So
I didn't understand.
Sorry, I'm trying to find the correct words. So
I can jump in. I think, a lot of Lyft or Uber have different options where you can see who's already has a ride and you can jump on a car that has a person or two in it. You can only do that if you have an app. There really is no way to do that in the current system. So we could have.
I understand what you're saying. So, okay, now I understand it. So the only ride sharing was when the family got in together.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and the reason it's worded that way is just with federally how they define that.
Okay, I fully understand now. Okay. Okay, great. So can you go back to the options? I think it's one or two or one. I think we should just promote it. I think we just have to do a stronger job of promoting it. And then, sorry, one last question. I know we've talked about this before, but why would someone call the 818-632, whatever the rest of the number is, instead of just using Uber or Lyft?
It's cheaper.
Okay, that is a really good reason.
Yeah, if, I'm out, having brunch and had a few too many drinks and didn't want to spend an extra $30 on an Uber, I'd use this instead and made sure I got home safe.
Okay. Well, there, good answer. So
It's
yeah,
also a local service, so versus calling Uber, Lyft, you don't know where they're coming from, how long it's going to take. That's more of a local option.
okay, great. Yeah, we send the number. I guess the number's on the website, but let's start promoting this. Okay, thank you so much. So,
Can I make
Peter?
one more comment? Yeah, if we're going with option 2 to expand the destinations and hours, I would just want to remind us that when we talked about the pilot program and selected the out-of-town locations, we stuck to the medical, religious.
Agree.
And we have some shopping opportunities in there as well. One of the things that we talked about is, encouraging people to shop outside of Calabasas might not be the right message. So I'm not sure I'd want to expand to too many other, and I don't know how the other council members feel about that, but if we're just at this point going to an RFP, let's include those as options. And then when we come to approve the contract, we can actually hash that out.
Okay, and our focus really with that, it says destinations. We're I think the destination list we have is pretty substantial. It's really for the hours based on the survey. We were just surprised to find that of the folks who responded to the survey, so many would use it during the week in the afternoon. So we're focused on hours, expanding those, not the destinations.
Great. Thank you all so much for working on this. Good presentation. Let's see.
So we need to
Yeah,
vote.
we do. Okay, may I have a motion? Okay, so staff recommends that City Council approve the creation of a permanent microtransit program, option 1 or 2, and we've supported option 2. So is there a motion for option 2?
I'll move option 2.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks.
If I could just clarify, option 2 in the staff report is more lengthy than what was on your slide. I just want to make sure that's what they're approving.
And I also wanted to clarify that the hours and the times of operations.
Yeah, I think that's in the staff
That was
report.
the next discussion, and I wasn't sure if that motion included 5 to 10 Thursday through Sundays, weekday afternoons 2 to 6, or so.
I think what I understood when I made the motion was that they would be going to an RFP with the current hours that we have and the current destinations we have as a base fee and an alternate fee in the RFP if we expand hours and destinations. And when the contract comes back to us, we'll be able to see those options and choose which options to go with.
Got it.
Is that correct?
Any
Correct.
additional
And-
parameters with that? Or we're just allowing them to come back with something and we would just choose?
Yeah, they would go to RFP with the base scope of the RFP being what we currently have today.
Correct.
And the rest of it being optional. And then when we look at the contract, all of that can be decided.
Correct, and thank you, Lisa. For the record, I will read the entirety of option
Thank
2. Would be the end the pilot, make it permanent, expand the program to include more days and times, such as evenings from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Thursday through Saturday, or weekday afternoons from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., and staff would continue to track rider data and adjust the hours to match demand.
Great. Okay. Now we will move on to future information agenda items. Do any council members have any requests for future items? Actually, no, let's see. Receive status update and request for direction on pending future items. Kindon?
Thank you, Mayor. I think we can move through this quickly. In your packet, you have a list of our future agenda items that we've been working on this year. The only exception that what's in your packet in this item is I've taken out those that have been grayed out or those that have already been done. So in essence, really, staff is looking at direction on 5 to 7 different items on this list. And if I could go through that list very quickly, this is again in your staff report under item 18A is but it will also correspond to the very back of your packet with the numbers. I do have on that list an update on some of the other items and when they'll be coming back to council. As we start the new year, we prioritized these in December of last year. We've worked through almost half of these and are nearly done. There's some that are still pending. There's some that the council may want to remove as we start this next year. So with that, if I could just highlight real quickly the ones that we're looking for direction on. So in Group A, it's number 3. Group B, it's number 1 and 2. And we'll go back to these. Group C, it's number 1 and 5. And then Group D, 2 and 8. And we'll start from the beginning on these just to get council direction on how we want to proceed on these. So if we could start at the beginning with Group A, number 3, an ordinance adding Chapter 5.22 provision of security by commercial retailers to the municipal code.
You mean that was the one where they would be required to report it?
Correct. That one actually changed over different times, and so I guess we're looking for direction. There was a draft ordinance that was brought back, and then it changed based on some of the direction, and then it just never has come back, so it's kind of in limbo, I guess.
So as I sent to the council yesterday, the whole new series of special directives from the DA came down. So what I'd suggest on this one is just waiting to see the impact of those and how they're going to be implemented. Because if the law is actually going to be enforced now, then we may not need an ordinance like this.
Instead of waiting for clarity for staff, can we withdraw it or abandon it and then bring it back if need be?
That's what I was going to ask, if we could remove it and then bring it back if there's a need.
That's fine.
Is there any other opposition to removing that item?
I'm good, we can bring it back if
Okay.
law and order is not restored.
But can you note somewhere the reason why we're doing it, if anyone ever asks?
Yeah. We can memorialize that in the minutes, just that it was removed pending the changes with
Change in prosecutorial positions. Policies.
Policies, correct. Group B, number 1, report on options on increasing enforcement of the municipal code, including city to prosecute violations of the law to include use of the city prosecutor.
I think that was pretty much the same thing, wasn't it? Wasn't that mostly the same motivation?
Yes, it was things that were not being prosecuted by the district attorney.
So can we remove that?
Yeah.
Give him a chance.
Give him a chance.
Okay. Item number 2, discussion regarding gun violence prevention.
We'd still like that to come to subcommittee.
The Public Safety Committee?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes, please.
And then there we can decide if that's a statement, a video, if it's a initiative or something. We'll have that. Okay, that can come back to the Public Safety. Group C, item number 1, discussion on or presentation on ways to deter catalytic converter thefts, review state laws, and encourage catalytic converter etching. I'd have to check with Deputy DiMatteo. That's something that the Sheriff's Station is already doing. Is that correct?
Just maybe do some promotion or
But hasn't there been an intervening state law that went into effect? Like additional punishments and?
That's what it was, that some other cities had.
No, but a state law went into effect.
Okay.
Since we did this, the state law went into effect January 1st of this year.
Okay.
So I don't know that we need this anymore either.
Okay.
So we can remove that?
The city attorney just indicated she would provide a updated memo on this.
Okay.
For us. I don't know if you're, thank you.
Can we remove though, knowing that the memo's coming?
Sure.
Okay.
We can always bring it back, right? I'm okay with that.
And then on the next page, item number 5, green procurement policy recommendations.
I think this had to do, I'm sorry, this had to do, we had meetings on, a couple of meetings on this in particular recently with the environmental subcommittee and staff on this, and environmental commissioners as well. So, Ed, want to add something?
You know, when it comes to policy, thank you. More of individual items that we've been discussing, not necessarily policy. So it wouldn't hurt to have one and keep it on there.
When is this coming?
It depends
It's been
what
on
direction
here a
we get
while.
tonight.
Can I speak on this one for a moment?
Please.
Yeah, so this one, just give us the history on it. This was during our strategic planning when we all had ideas of what we wanted to do here in the city, and this one came from Council Member Maurer. When the tally came up on the board, she was the only one that supported this item. Later in the conversation, it was clear she couldn't get the votes to support it, so she took her own vote off of that and put it on something else. So this went through our strategic priorities with 0 votes. As mayor, Councilmember Maurer put it on the agenda anyways and had staff work on it. We then voted on it in December, and the procurement policy was full of holes. So we tabled it, or continued it, I should say. And my question is, how much time has staff spent working on it since then?
It has gone to the Planning and Environmental Commission, so there has been some feedback from those commissions, but it still is, I mean, it could be brought back to the council as is. I'm thinking, do I have Michael here? Is there any more work that would need to be done? And it also is one of those things that is, again, it's a cumbersome policy that puts more burdens on the city in costs, and so I think that would be one of those things that we'd bring back when we discuss.
Yeah, your recollection is correct, Mayor Pro Tem. The direction from the council was to look at a few different items, so it was sent back to the Environmental Commission, went through the Environmental Commission, and the Planning Commission also recently looked at it, really just a piece of it, the green building component, and they've also provided a recommendation. So it is pretty much ready to move forward to council, but we have spent a decent amount of time on that.
Well, my suggestion would be, if we've already spent the time on it, we should at least look at it if it's already fully baked.
I would agree.
But I think it's a perfect example of why we really need a second on any item that gets onto our city agendas here.
Okay, we will slate that for a future discussion. Group D, Mayor's Youth Council resolution clarifying the city council liaison. I think we've resolved this one. Initially at the year, there was a question of who the mayor would be able to choose. As we looked at the resolution is open, indicating that the mayor can select any of the council members to serve with her or him on the Mayor's Youth Council. So I don't know if there's any other direction that we need from council on this, but it has stayed on because we haven't discussed it.
I think that was the answer.
Okay.
Yeah, it was answered.
We'll remove that then. And then, Councilman Bazagian, this was one of your requests, and I think this is more of, this is item number 8 under Group D. I think this was a request from the city attorney to present the pros and cons and perhaps the process of becoming a charter city. Is that correct?
Yes, and I think on this one, the previous city attorney had recommended waiting until there's an appellate court decision on your case.
That's going to take a while.
When is that? When do you think that would come?
They filed their appeal. The record hasn't even been completed yet, so we're looking 2 years out.
Okay, well, we probably need to look at it before then. And I asked the league, when we got the league's last rendition of the tables, and they have not updated it for many years, so we would need an updated one. But that, if a majority of the council, or I guess 2 council members, want her to work on that, I think it'd be worthwhile to at least have that discussion.
Yeah, I'm curious as to know what that would entail, and I think I seconded that when you first brought it up. I'm still in favor of hearing it.
Pam, is there any other direction you'd like to get while we're
Well, we already
preliminarily
have
discussing.
a memo on specific details on what the pros and cons are to become a charter city and how much it could cost depending on the public outreach that's required. So I can just provide that to the council as a memo, and then once you review that, you can determine whether or not you want to move forward with any additional details or research or actually look into becoming a charter city. But we can start off with that, and that would be very minimal in costs.
I want to add a point to that. I'd like to see the advantages and the disadvantages as well.
Right, that's what our memo would include. It has the pros and cons of what it would be to be a charter city.
Do you have all the direction that you need?
I do, Mayor. Thank you.
Perfect. Now we will move on to future information agenda items. Do any council members have any requests? No, I think we have a lot.
Good.
Okay, great. Now moving on to task force reports. Ed?
I do have a few. Clean Power Alliance Board of Directors meeting is tomorrow, and I had a meeting with the Finance Committee, which I've been serving on for the past couple of months, and some really good, interesting news. Clean Power received a bond purchase award. They're in New York right now to receive it from the Bond Buyer Magazine for excellence in financing for a public purpose. So we're moving in the right direction on so many levels. It's unbelievable. It's good to see. I attended the Las Virgenes Municipal Water District Board meeting on Monday, where at that meeting, Glenn Peterson, a longtime member of the board, and Metropolitan, he's really known as, I would call him a water whisperer, received a certificate from the city, and they also named the boardroom after him. Now, it was a nice moment for a longstanding valued member of the district. And Valley Economic Alliance, I think Mayor Pro Tem may have mentioned it earlier. Tomorrow they're having their reorg board meeting in Founders Hall. And okay, it is next week. It's 12/12. I'm so sorry. And that'll be taking place in the afternoon. And our former mayor is going to be stepping down in his chair and who's done just a great job. So if anybody wants to stop by and say hello to him, they're welcome. And those are my comments.
Thank you. David?
Thank you. The other day, I attended with the mayor the RYSST meeting, which is Recreation, Youth, Seniors. Very good meeting. Staff did a tremendous job presenting all types of information coming forward, and they're going to be presenting next year to council one of the great items they've worked on so well at the tennis center. And then we also had a mini wireless task force meeting at the same time. I attended Valley Economic Alliance board meeting, and Ed will be sworn in by the new mayor on next week, as well as I'll be hopefully sworn in as well. And I'll be attending the annual VICA meeting with Mayor Pro Tem, and I attended a couple of meetings for SCAG, legislative meeting, and then tomorrow morning at 8:30, I start 3 more SCAG meetings downtown. Thank you.
Peter?
I have actually got nothing to report since our last council meeting. I've had a few in-house meetings, but no committees or anything of that nature. I do have a big schedule coming up, and yes, I will be attending the VICA 75th annual meeting coming up on Friday. One other piece of news I wanted to report was that I have been reappointed to the League's Transportation, Communication, and Public Works Committee, so I'll be serving there one more term.
Great, congratulations. James?
Yes, we have deferred a few community center board meetings as soon as we hear from the county that the county's approved the transfer to the city of Calabasas of the community center. We'll have one final meeting of the board. That'll probably be next year, January 1st, I become chairman again. So I guess I'll be the last chairman.
most of my meetings have already been mentioned, but we hosted an in-person COG meeting here at City Hall. The COG has been mostly virtual since COVID, but every so often we do an in-person meeting. So everyone was really appreciative that we had it here, and we got some good work done. I will be stepping, my term for COG president will be ending in January, and then Penny Sylvester from the city of Agora will be assuming the president of the COG. So I think that's it for task force reports. Kindon, do you have anything?
I do, Mayor. Just a couple items. I want to congratulate our library staff. They recently received a small grant from the California State Library System, and really the purpose of this grant is to work with our special collections in case of a disaster. So just like many of us in our conversations, the state library system is looking at emergencies and how to protect those special collections in the libraries throughout the state. So our staff has that grant and is working through that, and I'm proud of them for taking that initiative. Second, exciting news, we received information this week that AT&T is installing a FirstNet AT&T tower on Mulholland. This is outside city limits near Maria's Italian Kitchen, but it will provide improved service in Calabasas Old Town, near the Tennyson Swim Center, Calabasas Lake, and maybe even City Hall area. So we're excited about that. It's expected to be done before the end of December. Cross our fingers that everything goes through with that. And then on top of that, we're also, Scott and Tony are working on improved systems and boosters and so forth within City Hall, Senior Center, Founders Hall, everywhere else. So we're going to amp up our coverage here in addition to what's provided by AT&T.
Amazing news, and we can report back to that at the COG meeting next time everyone comes here. We did an exercise of who could get reception and who couldn't, and most people could not get reception in Founders Hall. So we've been working quickly to fix that.
You know, Mayor, I think there was actually a glitch with AT&T that day at the same time, because when I left the meeting and went elsewhere, I still didn't have AT&T. Right. So it wasn't just our thick walls of Founders Hall, it was
But we're going to
AT&T.
we're going to fix
We're
it.
going to improve that.
So that's great. So I hope everyone can join us for our next meeting next Wednesday, December 11th, where we will be holding our city council reorganization, and we'll be swearing in our new mayor. Quite exciting, and Mayor Pro Tem. So with that, our meeting is adjourned.